Chapter 1660. We don't have to fight? All the powerful warriors looked at each other, speechless. Luli called all the powerful warriors here just to send out scouts? He didn't need them to do anything. Was this arrogance or humiliation? Or perhaps it was absolute confidence. He could kill tens of millions of demons and billions of Asmodeans all by himself? How could he fight against an army of demons that even the entire divinity could not suppress? If it were not for the fact that Luli was strong and the 18 dead demon lords outside had proven his strength, everyone would have turned their noses up at him. That's fine. Soon, many people came to their senses. Luli's actions could not be better. For one thing, he could prove his loyalty to the human race. For another, they didn't have to fight and risk being killed. Luli had his reasons for doing this. Given the current abilities in the divinity, to kill 3 10-winged demons at once was difficult. Also, Emperor Yoshing was good at setting up traps. They could all be killed if they were not careful. Since they could not kill the 3 10-winged demons now, then they could clip their wings and kill all the demons and Asmodeans. How could the demons conquer the divinity when there were only 3 of them left? The major forces didn't have to do anything to kill the demons and Asmodeans. Luli had too many worms of the void. There was a huge hall in the wicked bead that was almost full. There must be at least tens of billions of worms of the void. The worms of the void gnawed at the average demon army quickly. How long had it been in the residence of Hongming? Luli had killed over 1 million demons. How big was the demon army? 100 million at most? With dozens or hundreds of attacks, the entire demon army could be wiped out. Therefore, Luli didn't need help. On the contrary, for him, the other forces would be a burden. He would worry about this and that. He would fight alone and come and go as he pleased. He could leave and kill whenever he wanted. How convenient was that? What if Emperor Yoshing came with 2 10-winged demons and killed their way into the army? Should Luli save them or not? As soon as Luli finished his words, everyone quieted down. After a while, Ling Qinyan burst into laughter and broke the silence. Brother Lu, you asked us to come all the way here, and you only want us to send some scouts. Are you making fun of us? Luli stood up, cupped his fists and said, How dare I make fun of Prince Yen? It's just that great Emperor Yoshing and the others have been keeping an eye on me recently. If I don't have accurate information, it'll be very difficult for me to move forward. If I can't figure out the location of the 3 10-winged fiends, I won't dare to kill them. I will definitely die if I encounter a 10-winged demon. Everyone was silent. Who here could withstand a 10-winged demon? Zhuqiulu was injured by the 10-winged demon several times. She was not a match for it at all. All right. Ling Qinyan nodded. All the top scouts of the land of Yuyan will be mobilized to assist you, and we will be stationed here all the time. If you need help, inform us immediately. Ling Qinyan seemed to be the leader of the land of Yuyan. Her attitude represented the attitude of the land of Yuyan. Pan Wang and the others did not say anything. Naturally, they tacitly agreed. Luo Guan continued, Summon all the scouts of our craftsmen's sect and listen to young Master Lu's orders. The current pavilion master of the Pavilion of Mystery also expressed his stance. He stood up and said, The scouts of the Pavilion of Mystery will also listen to young Master Lu's orders. This concerns the survival of the divinity realm. We will do our best. Since the Pavilion Master of the Pavilion of Mystery had said so, the other forces did not dare to say anything. They were just scouts. What was more, these scouts could listen to Luli's orders to gather information. They could also report what they found to the other forces. Since all the forces had expressed their stance, Zhuqiulu did not dare to disobey them. He said coldly, The scouts of the Spacetime Office will also listen to young Master Lu's orders. Luli looked over and smiled. When the time comes, we will need to use some teleportation altars of the Spacetime Office. Please cooperate, Master Zhuqiulu. Zhuqiulu smiled embarrassedly. No problem. Buzzing, a cyan saber appeared in Luo Guan's hand. He waved his hand and Luo Huang, who was behind him, took it over with both hands. He walked to Lu Li and offered it to Lu Li. Luo Guan said, "Young Master Lu, how can we kill demons without a sharp weapon? This divine weapon is called Cold Edge. I refined it 1,000 years ago and it is of excellent quality. I will give it to you today. I hope you can drink the blood of demons with it and protect the peace of the divinity realm." Lu Li was surprised. Luo Guan was giving him a holy weapon? He was the archenemy of the craftsman's sect. How could Luo Guan be so generous to forsake personal grudges for the sake of righteousness? Ha ha, Ling Qinyan smiled. There was a trace of mockery in her eyes. Clearly, Luo Guan wanted to bury the hatchet with Lu Li. In other words, she was afraid of Lu Li. She was humbling herself and fawning on Lu Li, hoping to resolve the grudge between them. She was afraid that Lu Li would destroy the craftsman's sect when he was strong enough. Many powerful warriors could tell what Luo Guan was trying to do. They exclaimed that Luo Guan was willing to lower herself and fawn on Lu Li as the master of the craftsman's sect. Luo Huang stood in front of Lu Li, blushing. Back then, Lu Li was just a disciple of the Chamber of Relics, and she was a superior phoenix. At first, she looked down on Lu Li. She didn't expect that Lu Li had reached such a high position in such a short time. She could only look up to him now. "Thank you, Master." Lu Li took over the relic weapon. He had a holy grade armor but no holy grade weapon. Luo Guan was considerate. He turned to Luo Huang and said with a smile, "Thank you as well, young lady Huang." Luo Huang said nothing. She bowed and left. She knew that she and Lu Li were not destined to be together in this lifetime. Lu Li had accepted the gifts from the craftsman's sect, but that did not mean he was on good terms with them. "My friend." Yen Lu, the current Grand Master of the Hall of Vitality, took out a ring. He asked a young man to bring it over and said, "There are some pellets in here, top-level ones. There are also some exorcism pellets. Maybe they can help the demonic energy in you." My friend, many people rolled their eyes. Previously, the 4 super forces wanted to kill Lu Li. Now, they were addressing him as a friend. It was as if they were good friends despite the difference in age. But Yen Yu was dead and the Hall of Vitality was weakened. It was understandable that the Hall of Vitality wanted to make friends with Lu Li. There was no such thing as eternal enemies, only interests. Every force believed in interests first. Lu Li had reached such a high level at such a young age. If he could defeat the demons, he would become the leader of the human race. By then, the structure of the divinity would be changed. Would they wait for him to wipe out the 4 super forces one by one if they didn't befriend him? Ha ha! The new Master of Cabinet of Mystery said with a smile, "Too many powerful warriors have died in the divinity. The list needs to be adjusted. We will publish the latest one soon. I think young hero Lu is qualified to be listed in the top 10. What? People in the hall were in an uproar. The Master of Cabinet of Mystery had listed Lu Li on the list, and he was on the top 10. He was trying to rectify Lu Li's name. Once he was on the list, Lu Li's reputation as a traitor would be erased. Being on the top 10 would mean that he was at the peak of the divinity. That being said, given Lu Li's abilities and what he had done, it was reasonable for him to be on the top 10. Lord Ji and the others had died. The list did need to be adjusted. "Thank you, Master." Lu Li didn't care if he was on the list or not. He didn't care if the Master of Cabinet of Mystery could rectify his name or not. That being said, Lu Li accepted the kindness of the Master of Cabinet of Mystery. This man has finally grown up. He is of indomitable spirit. Pan Yuqin, who was standing behind Pan Wang, exclaimed as she watched Lu Li chatting with the top warriors of the divinity. Chapter 1661. Powerful scouts from the divinity were being mobilized. All of them were secretly stationed in the prefectures occupied by the demon army. Luli did not leave at once. Instead, he stayed in the City of Divinity. He did not stay to catch up with the others. He wanted to learn more and solve some questions. Only the most powerful warriors in the divinity could know. How could he miss such a good chance? Instead of going to Luo Guan and the others, he went to Ling Qinyan. In a manner in the City of Divinity, Ling Qinyan and Lu Li sat at a square table respectively. Pan Yuqin sat in the middle and poured tea for them. Ling Qinyan activated the inhibition formation and said with a smile, "Brother Lu, you secretly invited us here. Do you want to enjoy the happiness of having multiple partners?" Ling Qinyan's words were shocking. Lu Li was taken aback and did not know what to say. Pan Yuqin was so shy that she wanted to bury herself in the ground. She said, "Prince of Yen, what are you talking about?" "Ha ha ha." Ling Qinyan laughed. Her breasts were jiggling. She covered her mouth and said, "I am just kidding. Why are you so nervous? Do you have something to hide?" Pan Yuqin was even more shy. She lowered her head. Lu Li couldn't help but laugh. "Princess Yen is bold and uninhibited. You are a heroine. I admire you. Life is short and life is unpredictable. Didn't the divinity suffer an unexpected disaster this time? Don't be so depressed." Ling Qinyan picked up the teacup and said to Lu Li, "Brother Lu, did you go to some special place to cultivate? Otherwise, how can you improve so fast?" "Yes," Lu Li answered frankly, "I went to a black hole in space and time and cultivated there for a while. Time passes very slowly in there. I am only one step away from the heavens tribulation." "No wonder," Ling Qinyan nodded. Lu Li asked, "Prince of Yen, how do you go through the heavens tribulation? Where do you go?" Ling Qinyan pointed to the sky and said, "Go up to the sky and the heavens tribulation will come. The first heavens tribulation will have 3 stages. When you can go through the 3 stages, your abilities will be enhanced and your body, divine energy and soul will be improved." "The first heavens tribulation?" Lu Li's eyes glowed as he asked, "How many more heaven tribulations can I go through?" Ling Qinyan glanced at Pan Yuqin. Seeing that she was not curious, he waved his hand and said, "Let Pan Yuqin explain it to you. Now that you have reached this level, you should know some secret." Pan Yuqin filled up Lu Li and Ling Qinyan's teacups and said, "It is said that the heavens tribulation can be passed 9 times. If an immortal can pass 9 heavens tribulations, he or she will become an almighty immortal. That is the true omnipotent God. With a single thought, the world would collapse and all living things would wither." "Sovereign?" Lu Li was stunned. He remembered the blood oath of the Almighty God. He had thought that the Almighty God was just a virtual God, a God imagined by humans. Judging from Pan Yuqin and Prince of Yan's tone, this Master God was a real God? Omnipotent? Does such a God really exist in this world? Lu Li was still skeptical. When he was in the mortal world, he thought that immortals that ascended to the divinity were omnipotent. Only after coming to the divine world did he realize that the gods of the divine world were actually just warriors who were stronger than mortals. "We are not sure if the almighty gods really exist," Ling Qinyan added, "but there are powerful warriors that have passed through the second heaven's tribulation in the divinity. But they are all dead now." Lu Li frowned. "A name blurted out, Lord Ji?" "Yes." Ling Qinyan nodded and said, "Lord Ji is a powerful warrior that has passed through the second heaven's tribulation. He is commonly known as a second tribulation god. Also, powerful warriors in the demon realm will go through heaven's tribulation as well. The 3 10-winged demons have passed through the second heaven's tribulation as well. That is why they are so powerful." "Oh, I see." Lu Li lowered his head and thought for a while. Then, he asked, "Prince of Yen, have you ever seen a 3rd tribulation god or a 4th tribulation god?" "No." Prince of Yen said after a pause, "You will not see them in the divinity unless you go up there." "I knew it." Lu Li was shocked. His assumption was right. he asked. The divinity is the first heaven? There are the second heaven and the third heaven? Pan Yuqin's eyes glowed. Clearly, she was interested in these things. Ling Qinyan rolled his eyes and said, "Don't look at me. I don't know the details. I have never been to the divinity. None of the 9 immortal kings of the land of Yuyan have been there. Only 2 have been to the divinity. One is Lord Ji and the other is Lord Xianyuan. Lord Xianyuan has never shown up. I think he cannot come down. There are the second heaven and the third heaven up there, but I really don't know the details. Emperor Z must be a powerful warrior at the third heaven. My sister's family is from the divinity as well." Luli was sure of this. He thought for a while and asked, "Prince of Yen, why don't you go up there and have a look? Aren't you curious?" "It's not that we aren't curious. We don't want to die." Prince of Yen put on a bitter smile and said, "There are some confidential information that you are not qualified to know. I can only tell you one thing. 300,000 years ago, many supreme warriors from the divinity went to the second heaven. More than 30 supreme warriors from the land of Yuyan went there, but only a few came back. One of them was our Prince of Yen. When he came back, he was badly injured. Before he died, he said, 'If you are not a second tribulation divine god, you must not go to the second heaven. Otherwise, you will die for sure.'" Hiss hiss, Luli and Pan Yuqin gasped. If one could not go to the second heaven before reaching Lord Ji's level, then what about the third heaven? The fourth heaven? What other shocking secrets were hidden in this world? The divinity seemed to be powerful. Were they all frogs at the bottom of a well? Actually, I have been thinking about this over the years. Ling Qinyan stood up and said, "Is the world we are in a pyramid? The lowest level is the mortal world. We are only at the second level. There are many levels above. Are the main gods standing at the highest level and looking down on all? Do we have to go through heaven's tribulations again and again to reach higher and higher levels? The problem is, it is so hard for us to cultivate now. It is difficult for us to improve our combat abilities. How can we have the chance to stand at the top of the pyramid?" Luli was confused as well. But those problems were too far away for him. He thought for a while and asked another question. "Prince of Yen, is the trump card of the 4 forces at the second heaven? Do they have powerful backgrounds at the second heaven?" "You are smart." Prince of Yen nodded and said, "The 4 forces all have backers at the second heaven. Once they are in danger, they can ask for help from the forces at the top. They will send some second tribulation divine gods down. The Slayer was killed by the powerful warriors from the upper world. Backers." Luli thought about it and asked, "Does the realm of demons also have powerful backers at the second heaven? Is that why the 4 forces cannot use their trump cards? If they ask for backers, the realm of demons will do the same. Or maybe none of them can." "None of them." Chapter 1662. After chatting with Prince of Yen for an afternoon, Luli answered many questions and learned many secrets. Other than Prince of Yen, other immortal kings and powerful warriors in the divinity, no one else would know these secrets. That night, Luli discussed with Luo Guan and others. They decided to let Pan Yuqin manage all the scouts. For one thing, Luli trusted her. For another, Pan Yuqin was capable. The Hall of Blood Edge was managed by her alone. The scouts were important. If anything went wrong, Luli could be killed. By then, the divinity would be beyond salvation. Leaders of the other forces were cautious. They all told the scouts to listen to Pan Yuqin's orders. Luli didn't trust any of the major forces in the divinity, including Pavilion of Misty Drizzle, Palace of Snow Mountain and Qian Huanhan's family. He knew Pan Yuqin well. She wouldn't lie to him even if Master Pan gave the order. The next day, Luli left by Spacetime Office's teleportation formation. He went to the south of Zhou Mansion where an army of demons was wreaking havoc. If the scouts didn't find anything special, Luli would take action. The dispatch of scouts from the divinity alerted the demons. They thought the humans were about to launch a counterattack. Scouts from the demons were sent out quickly. They snuck into the prefectures occupied by humans to gather intelligence. The result of the investigation made the demons pay more attention. The humans had gathered 3 armies to fight against the demons. They were ready to launch a counterattack. Because of the appearance of Luli on the human side, the demons could not afford to be careless. The several armies that were attacking stopped. Emperor Yoshing sent the other 2 10-winged demons to assume command at once. If Luli came with his army and human warriors, the 3 armies of demons could be defeated without the help of the 10-winged demons. Luli had been lurking in the south of Zhou Mansion for half a month. The best human scouts had been sent out to make sure that there were no more 10-winged demons. Pan Yuqin had found the whereabouts of the 3 10-winged demons according to the information of the scouts. When Pan Yuqin sent him accurate information, Luli had no more concerns. He dashed into the camp of the demons in the south of Zhou Mansion. All the demons were gathered together. There were millions of demons and hundreds of millions of Asmodeans. The wilderness was filled with demons and slaves. There was no end in sight. Whoosh, Luli flew over on a mountain. He stood on the mountain with a cold relic weapon in his hand. Before he got close, Luli could feel his murderous intent. It's Luli, the killing god is here. Hurry up and report to the Lord, the death god is here. Insect demon, the insect demon is here. The abyssal demon scouts turned pale with fright and shouted as they quickly flew toward the camp. In the middle of the camp, countless demons suddenly flew up. There were quite a number of 6-winged demons and 8-winged demons. After seeing Luli, the group of 8-winged demons all had grave expressions on their faces. They were hesitant, unsure of whether to fight or flee. While the demon lord was hesitating, Luli had flown over and dashed into the base camp. He took out the wicked bead and many worms of the void swarmed out, covering half of the sky. Retreat! Seeing these insects, the evil demon commander immediately made up his mind. News of the battle at Hongming Prefecture had spread. Yu Gang's army of millions of demons had been eaten by these bugs. We will risk our lives to kill Luli, the demon lord. The demon lord roared. He knew very well that if he could not stall Luli, many demons would not be able to escape. In the end, they would end up just like Yu Gang. Buzzing, Luli had released billions of worms of the void. He waved his hand and the worms went on a rampage in all directions. Luli himself was drawing a formation in the void. Before the demon lord could come over, he had flown away. His current mission was not to fight against the demon lord, but to kill as many demons as he could. Once all the evil demon soldiers died, how could a few evil demon powerhouses overturn the heavens? Swish, swish, the worms of the void swarmed over. Luli gave an order to devour all the living beings nearby. Since he controlled the mother worm, the other child worms would carry out the mother worm's order. The worms became intangible. They passed through the black air and pierced into the bodies of many demons. Then, the worms went to the heads and began to eat. Soon, the area had turned into hell. The worms of the void were so fast that the low-level demons could not keep up with them. Even though the demon army was running like crazy, there were still many that were caught up and eaten. The demon lord wanted to stall Luli. Now that Luli had disappeared, they had no choice but to run. They were so fast that the worms of the void could not catch up with them. Otherwise, the demon lord would die as well. Many demons and demon slaves were slaughtered. The area became a sea of blood and corpses. If it were not for the fact that many demons had learned their lesson and controlled a large number of demon slaves to stop the worms of the void, more than half of the demon army would have been killed. Retreat! Retreat towards the south and meet up with the great emperor and the others. The demon lords here had learned their lesson. They could not stay here any longer. They must go and meet up with Emperor Yoshing, or else they would all be killed by Luli. They flew all the way. After 2 days and 2 nights, When they were about to fly out of the Zhounan prefecture, the demon army in front of them suddenly stopped and began to fly back in fear. "What is it? What is happening?" the demon leaders asked in surprise. Soon, they narrowed their eyes because they saw someone standing on the peak of the mountain. Who else could it be but Luli? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! The ground suddenly shook. Then, countless worms of the void flew out and swept into the sky. There were at least billions of them. "Luli, I will kill you!" Several demon lords flew towards Luli in rage. However, Luli waved his hand and released a swarm of worms of the void towards them. The demon lords immediately changed directions and ran away in fear. Run! The demon army had no more will to fight. They all ran to the west. But this time, a small number of demons stayed. The nearby mountains became a burial ground for demons again. The demon army ran like frightened birds. This time, they only ran for a day and a half before they stopped again. Because Luli had appeared in front of them again. This time, before they could run, Luli attacked. Countless worms of the void swept over, scatter and run. "If we scatter, the demons won't be able to catch up," a demon lord shouted hysterically. If the demon army still gathered together and ran, the final outcome would be total annihilation. Only by scattering would Luli be unable to catch up and kill them one by one. Demons! There were also some top-level human scouts hiding nearby, and they clearly knew what was going on here. Even they were frightened by Luli's methods, let alone the demons. They believed that before long, Luli would have a new nickname, the Demon of Insects. But this nickname was different from the God Slayer and Thief. This nickname was definitely a compliment. This was a glorious title given to Luli by the demons. Chapter 1663. Even though the demons had split up, there were still many of them. The average ones were slow, but Luli was fast. In 5 days, he had covered billions of miles and killed 2 to 3 million demons. There were 7 to 8 million demons in the south of Zhou Prefecture. Altogether, Luli had killed 5 to 6 million. Only 2 to 3 million escaped. Not many powerful demons were killed, only 2 lords of the demon. News of the victory was sent to the humans in the divinity at once. This time, nobody doubted Luli anymore. Emperor Yoshing would not use an army of 10 to 20 million demons and so many powerful demons as bait unless he was out of his mind. They were killed by Luli. The human race was on the brink of extinction. The demons were unstoppable. If it were not for Luli, the divinity would be conquered soon. Emperor Yoshing didn't have to do this. Pan Yuqin mobilized all the scouts. Many of them had strange skills. They were not afraid of death in order to gather information. After Luli killed the demon army in the south of Zhou Prefecture, she sent a message to Luli at once, asking him to go to the Palace of Heaven's Will. Luli trusted Pan Yuqin. By letting her dispatch all the scouts, Luli was putting his life in her hands. He didn't ask any questions and flew away. 5 days later, Luli arrived at the Palace of Heaven's Will. The demon army was retreating to the east of the divinity. Luli followed the army for a while. Making sure that nothing was out of place, he snuck to the front of the army and began to make arrangements. Thousands of miles away from the army, Luli secretly released the worms of the void and told them to hide underground. The range of the worms of the void was large. He released 10 billion worms of the void, and they were all hiding underground. Scouts that had never seen worms of the void would not be able to find out. Luli waited quietly when everything was ready. Luli used the cloaking armor and hid under a hill. Some demon scouts couldn't see through the cloaking armor and find him. He waited quietly. An hour later, some demon scouts came and searched around. One of them even walked past Luli. But Luli didn't move and hid his energy. The demon didn't notice anything. More scouts kept coming, but none of them found anything out of the ordinary. Luli kept waiting. A moment later, he heard the sound of something tearing through the air. He looked at the sky behind him and saw a dark cloud. The evil demons covered the sky and quickly flew over like a swarm of locusts. If an ordinary human saw so many evil demons, they would have long been scared out of their wits. Luli didn't move and waited for the demons to fly over. Even when the demon army flew over his head, Luli didn't move and continued to wait. No, it's Luli, move! A demon lord suddenly discovered Luli and roared. The demon army in the sky was stunned and stopped. Chi, the ground below continuously trembled, and then the void worms that filled the sky shot up. It was as if 10,000 arrows had shot out at the same time, and the scene was rather spectacular. The evil demon army came to their senses and fled in all directions. Ah, there's a bug in my body! A demon lord cried out. In an instant, hundreds of thousands of insects had entered his body. His face was filled with despair. Then, he rushed towards Luli and shouted, "Luli, I want to die with you." "You? You're not good enough." Luli sneered. A cold blade appeared in his hand. With a gentle wave, a blood-red ray of sword light whizzed out. The demon lord's vision was replaced by a world of blood. He was smashed away. Even though he didn't die, there were many worms of the void in his body. What awaited him was death. This time, Luli didn't fly away. He was surrounded by worms of the void. He had fought with the demon lords many times and was no longer afraid. 2 more demon lords charged at him from the left side of the sky. He released Demon King Slash and easily sent them flying. He didn't have to kill the demon lords. The worms of the void would eat them up. He just had to smash the demon lords away. There were worms of the void everywhere, and the demon lords would die for sure. After the 3 demon lords were smashed away, the other demon lords didn't dare to come closer. There were too many worms of the void. If they didn't run now, they wouldn't be able to. "Run!" the remaining demon lords yelled and ran away. The demon armies ran away as well. None of the demons had the will to fight back. Luli chased after them with his saber in hand. The worms of the void were everywhere. The demons looked back and were scared out of their wits. To them, Luli was hundreds and thousands of times more terrifying than the Slayer. On the vast land, many demons were rolling around and howling in pain. Many of them were bleeding from their eyes, noses, mouths, and mouth. A young man with a cyan saber in his hand was followed by a swarm of worms of the void. In front of them, countless devils were fleeing in fear. Such a scene was very shocking, and made the blood of those human scouts who were hiding nearby boil. With the strength of a single person, he fought against an army of millions of demons. It was not a desperate fight, but a one-sided massacre. One man was fighting against millions of demons, striking fear into the demons and making them run away in a panic. Not only were the human scouts excited, but they were also thrilled. They wished they could follow Luli and slaughter the demons one by one. 3 days later, the Palace of Will of Heaven stopped. It was not that Luli had killed most of the demons. It was because he received a piece of news and was forced to stop. A scout sent an urgent report. Emperor Yoshing and 2 10-winged demons had launched a surprise attack on the human armies. The humans had mobilized 3 armies to distract the demons. Now, one of the armies had been destroyed by the 3 10-winged demons, 3 million of them. An eye for an eye, blood for blood. Emperor Yoshing had chosen the same method as Luli. Luli went to kill the low-level demons while they launched a surprise attack on the human armies. Given the abilities of the 3 10-winged demons, nobody in the entire divinity could stop them. After a surprise attack, Emperor Yoshing and the other 2 10-winged demons went missing. Would they go to another army, or would they go to the City of Divinity directly, or sneak to where Luli was? These 3 10-winged demons were very good at stealth. If they were in the demon army, the scouts would be able to find some clues from the demons' reactions, but now they couldn't find them at all. Pan Yuqin sent the scout back with the information and asked for Luli's opinion. What should they do next? Disperse. Dismiss all the human armies. Don't gather together. Go into hiding. Luli sent the order back through the scouts. He was troubled. The 3 10-winged demons were not playing by the book. Something could go wrong. Any powerful warrior would be killed by the 3 10-winged demons. The 3 were lethal weapons that could deter others. I am not strong enough. Luli took a deep breath after an hour. He looked up to the sky. He must try to pass the heavens' tribulation to enhance his abilities. Chapter 1664. Bad news soon arrived. The second human army had been defeated. 3 10-winged demons had launched a surprise attack on that army. The human army was just about to disperse when they were attacked by 3 10-winged demons. One supreme warrior from the divinity was killed. Hundreds of thousands of warriors were either injured or killed. More than 2 million were demonized. The powerful warriors outside all went back to the city of craftsmen. The city had the most powerful formation. Not even 3 10-winged demons could breach it. Also, the city had powerful trapping and killing formations. If the 3 10-winged demons dared to attack, Luo Guan was confident that he could trap them. Prince Yen, Ling Qinyan and the others left the city of craftsmen. They did not trust the 4 forces. Also, Ling Qinyan said to be ready to help Lu Li at any time. Pan Yuqin also hid underground and secretly controlled all the scouts. Lu Li made a move. Now that the 3 10-winged demons were attacking the human army, the demon camp was defenseless. Many demon armies were gathering toward the Star Sand Prefecture. Lu Li was ready to do something big. He flew across the void without stopping. As long as he could attack the demon camp, the 3 10-winged demons would retreat. Then, he could besiege Wei to save the besieged. 4 days later, Lu Li arrived at the Star Sand Prefecture. There were too many demons here. He didn't dare to fly across the void. He sneaked in. He kept a low profile along the way. Once he was exposed, he would alert the enemy. After flying for 3 days, Lu Li arrived at the Star Sand City. He also found some human scouts. He thought for a moment and showed himself. The scouts were alarmed. They dropped to their knees in joy when they saw it was Lu Li. "Lord Lu," they shouted. "How is it here?" Lu Li nodded. Then, he asked, "This is the demon camp. Isn't it too dangerous for you to come here?" "We are here at Lady Pan's order to find you, Lord." One of the scouts reported, "Lady Pan told you to be careful. 3 10-winged demons are attacking the city and they are showing off. She feels something is wrong. You must be careful and don't fall into their trap." "Something is wrong?" Lu Li's eyes flickered. 3 10-winged demons were hundreds of millions of miles away. What could be wrong? Could it be that the evil demon camp had set up a great array to trap and kill him? How many demons have gathered here? How many 8-winged demons are there? Lu Li asked, trying to figure out the situation. "There should be tens of millions of demons." The scout replied, "Many of the evil demon armies have returned and gathered here. According to Miss Pan's estimation, there should be about 30 to 40 million evil demons here, and many evil demons are still on the way. If they are all gathered, the number of evil demons could reach several billion, and there should be dozens of 8-winged evil demons." "I got it. You guys go back. It will be very chaotic here and you will be easily killed." Lu Li waved his hand. The scouts bowed to him and left quickly. Lu Li waited for a moment and wandered around. Pan Yuqin was a meticulous person. If she felt that there was a problem, then there really was a problem. This was the main camp of the fiend demons, and there were many fiend demons here. Sovereign Yoshing was a schemer, and if he was careless, he might just die here. Sure enough, there were a lot of evil demons here. There were evil demons everywhere in a radius of 1,000 miles outside the city. Lu Li dared not to get closer. He could only watch from a distance. After several rounds of observation, he felt a headache. Because there were too many demons, he didn't dare to get close to Star Sand City, so he couldn't see anything. The periphery was filled with low-level demons and evil demons. Unless he forced his way in, he would be discovered easily. There are formations in the city, so what? I am not going into the city. I will just control the worms of the void to attack from a distance. In the end, Luli made up his mind. There were demons everywhere, so he didn't have to go into the city. He just needed to let out the worms of the void and let them eat at will. Luli stepped back quietly, looking for a valley without demons. He found a hole and snuck into the ground. Then, he began to release the worms of the void. This time, he planned to let out more than half of the worms of the void. If the worms of the void wreaked havoc nearby, the army of demons would suffer heavy losses. Well, I better be careful. While he was releasing the worms of the void, Luli decided to build a one-way teleportation formation in the hole. This kind of teleportation formation could be used to teleport away. Once teleported, the teleportation formation would explode. It was very suitable for escaping. 2 hours later, Luli built a one-way teleportation formation. The 100 billion worms of the void were released. Luli flew out from the hole and had the mother worm control the worms of the void to move forward underground. With the 100 billion worms of the void, Luli moved toward the camp of demons. His mind was strained. If he succeeded, the army of demons would suffer a heavy blow. Humans might not be able to win in the end, but at the very least, it would be much more difficult for demons to conquer the divinity. 15 miles, 3 miles. Luli stood behind a hill. He could already see the swarm of demons and demon slaves in the distance. He told the mother worm to control the worms of the void to move forward underground while he lurked here, waiting quietly. Woo woo! When the worms of the void entered the army of demons, there was a sudden sound of a horn in the camp of demons. All the demons flew up like birds startled by the mere twang of a bowstring. They saw us? Worms of the void attack. A glint of coldness rose in Luli's eyes as he ordered the mother worm in his body. The mother worm could control all the worms of the void remotely. In an instant, swarms of worms of the void flew out from underground toward the demons above. Swish, swish, what happened next shocked Luli. Dark air surged out from the ground, covering an area with a radius of more than 3,000 miles. Inside the dark air, the worms of the void slowed down by 100 times while the demons sped up. Formations! Luli's eyes glowed coldly. Panuchin was right. There were formations in the camp of demons. The worms of the void were intangible and their speed was limited. What should I do? Luli was hesitating. He could leave at once, but the 100 billion worms of the void might be killed by the demons. They might even be demonized and used by the demons. If he did not leave, what if there were traps against him? Blood fairy. Luli made up his mind and let out the bloodvine. The bloodvine reached out from underground to check the formations. As long as the formations could be cracked, the worms of the void could wreak havoc in the camp of demons as well. The 3 10-winged demons were not here. Luli did not believe that the demon leader alone could kill him. Master, there is a formation down there. Blood Fairy answered soon. She explained, the formation down there is huge and it covers an area with a radius of 3,000 miles. We can crack it, but it will take some time. Wait, all of a sudden, Blood Fairy's voice became agitated. Master, run. I can sense a powerful warrior coming toward you. His cloaking skill is powerful. What? At this moment, Luli also felt the hairs on his body standing on end. He felt like he was being targeted by a terrifying killer. Average demon leaders would not make him feel this way. There was only one explanation. There were 10-winged demons in the camp of demons. He had fallen into a trap. Chapter 1665. The 3 10-winged demons were hundreds of millions of miles away. How could a 10-winged demon be here? Was there something wrong with Panuchin's information? Or was there another 10-winged demon hiding in the army of demons that never showed up? Last time at the Gold Sun Island, Luli had attacked the base camp of demons. If there were more 10-winged demons, then he would have died at the Gold Sun Island. Therefore, this was unlikely. Pan Yuchin's information could not be wrong. Then, there were only two possibilities. Either some demons had made a breakthrough recently, or one of the 10-winged demons was an 8-winged demon in disguise. Either way, Luli did not have the time to think. At this critical moment, he thought quickly. In an instant, hundreds of ideas crossed his mind. There was no time for him to fly across the void. By the time he finished the formation, the 10-winged demon would have arrived. Behind him, a mountain whooshed up and grew bigger. Then, it smashed down at lightning speed. Luli himself did not move, but the mountain would be crushed by him. Boom! The mountain came down. Luli was restrained by the mysterious force in the mountain. He was pressed into the ground. At the same time, another demon showed up. It was only 2 miles away from Luli and was being crushed by the mountain as well. That 10-winged demon snorted. Dark air billowed around him. He had survived the mysterious force of the mountain. He waved his fists and punched at the mountain. Bang! The mountain trembled and was smashed away. But at that moment, Luli had dashed into the ground like a pangolin. The cold blade in his hand stirred and quickly carved out a tunnel in the ground. Then, he flew away. You want to run? You're dreaming, the 10-winged demon said coldly. It flapped its 10 wings and chased after Luli in a blur. Its speed was several times faster than Luli's. Buzzing, more worms of the void came out from Luli's body and swept back like a swarm of locusts. Unfortunately, the black gas around the 10-winged fiend's body was roiling. When the void worms encountered the black gas, their speed dropped significantly. The 10-winged fiend released dense black gas from its hand and sent the void worms flying. The ever-successful worms of the void were smashed away. Luli was taken aback. He made up his mind. A small mountain flew out from the wicked bead and smashed at the demons behind him. Humph! The 10-winged demon abruptly punched out and the sacred mountain was sent flying. However, the 10-winged demon's body paused mid-flight. All right. Luli had no time to worry about the mountain. He dashed forward like a mad dragon and was about to reach the one-way teleportation formation. However, at that moment, the 10-winged demon made a move. Chi. He reached forward with his claw. The claw disappeared in midair, and then reappeared on Luli's back. Luli's claw was coming at Luli. The 10-winged demon's attack speed was so fast that Luli couldn't react at all. All he could do was swing his frost-edge saber backwards, and a blood-red light whizzed out towards the 10-winged demon behind him. Bang, bang, bang! The layers of armor on Luli's back cracked. The holy grade armor could not withstand one strike from the 10-winged demon. The demon's claws were about to pierce through Luli's body and tear him to pieces. The saber beam finally slashed down, causing the 10-winged demon to reveal a trace of hesitation. Luli's killing move made him feel threatened. Even though he could kill Luli right away, he still chose to withdraw his claws and defend. Okay. Luli felt he had just gone through the gates of hell. He flew away and dashed into the one-way teleportation formation not far away. He vanished into the teleportation formation. Then, the teleportation formation fell apart and self-destructed. Bang! As soon as Luli was teleported away, a streak of light flew over and smashed into the teleportation formation. The teleportation formation that was already in pieces was smashed into dust. It was a pity that Luli had been teleported away. Alas, what a pity! The 10-winged demon looked regretful. Then he said in annoyance, Emperor has been planning for so long and I have messed it up? When Emperor comes back, he will punish me severely. This hateful human is so cunning and he has a backup plan. Whoosh, the mountain in the cave flew away quickly. The 10-winged demon threw a cold glance over and then flew over quickly. He grabbed the mountain at once. Black air surrounded his hand and the mountain stopped moving. Whoosh, the 10-winged demon flew out from underground. He looked around and shouted, "Activate the burning god formation and burn all the worms. Let's see how Luli can behave without the worms." Luli flew out from the mountain hundreds of thousands of miles away. His back was covered in blood. But it was not serious. He only lost a holy grade relic. Careless! Blood oozed out from the corner of his mouth. He pulled a long face. Emperor Yoshing was shrewd and cunning. He had set up a trap for Luli to jump into. If it were not for Pan Yuqin's warning and Luli's quick reaction, he would have to stay here forever. The hundreds of millions of worms of the void might be gone, but Luli was not worried about it. The worms of the void could keep on splitting. There were so many demon slaves and so many bodies of demons. They could split quickly after devouring. But would the 2 mountains be left behind? If the 2 mountains were taken, then Luli would suffer a great loss. Let's wait. He had told the artifact spirits of the 2 mountains to run this way if anything went wrong. Luli found a place nearby, sat with his legs crossed to heel and waited. He was not afraid that the 10-winged demon would catch up with him. That demon would not dare to leave the camp of demons. After all, there were so many worms of the void there. If the worms of the void were not suppressed or killed, many demons would die. About 10 to 12 hours later, Luli's wounds were almost healed. From the distance came a noise. A green mountain was flying over. Luli took a look to make sure that there were no demons following him. Then, he showed himself and put away the mountain. He was comforted that at least 1 mountain had come back. Of the 3, only 1 was left. The other 2 had been taken away by the demons. Move! Luli flew away. He no longer dared to dream. He must pass the heaven's tribulation as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would not be able to fight against the 10-winged demon. Heaven's tribulation? Luli stopped after flying for a while. He remembered what Ling Qinyan told him. Heaven's tribulation was dangerous. Many super mighty warriors in the divinity could go through heaven's tribulation. However, they would rather stay at the divinity for the rest of their lives because they were afraid of death. Ling Qinyan suggested that Luli should wait for 100 years at the earliest. Luli was not calm enough. One of the heaven's tribulations was a knot in his heart. Chapter 1666. Snow Moon Prefecture, Snow Moon Temple. The Snow Moon Temple was not named because of the Snow Moon Prefecture. On the contrary, the name of the prefecture was changed because of the Snow Moon Temple. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, the Snow Moon Temple was powerful. It was one of the 72 sections. The master of the temple was not a monk or a swindler, but a nun. The Snow Moon Temple had declined and became a small force. That being said, its foundation was still there. The inhibition formation here was strong, so it had survived until now. Today, the Snow Moon Temple was lively. Many people gathered in the plaza. Leading them were Prince Yen, Ling Qinyan, Pan Yuqin and many other powerful scouts of the Yuyan land. They stood in the plaza quietly, and would look into the sky from time to time, as if they were waiting for something. While Ling Qinyan and Pan Yuqin were calm, the others were filled with passion and expectation. Whoosh! 2 hours later, a faint sound of something tearing through the air was heard, and a figure appeared in the square. Ling Qinyan smiled. She was wearing a blue silk dress. She was a lady who was good at dressing up. Her body was of the highest quality. Her curves were alluring. She looked even more glamorous when she dressed up. She had the elegance of a noble lady, but in her eyes, there was the lightness and slyness of a young girl. Her smile enchanted many men. The lamia was poisonous, but many would rather be poisoned to death in order to get close to her. That was the scary thing about Ling Qinyan. Pan Yuqin smiled as well. She was not as charming as Ling Qinyan, but she was the kind of person who would be more charming the longer one looked at her. Spending a long time with her, one would succumb to her charms and eventually fall irredeemably. Welcome back, our hero. Ling Qinyan bowed slightly, Pan Yuqin bowed at the same time, and countless warriors immediately knelt on one knee. The warriors here were the best scouts of the major forces in the divinity. They knew everything about Luli. They shouted, "Welcome back, Lord!" Luli put on a bitter smile. Not long ago, he almost lost his life in the base camp of the demons. He himself was a little depressed, but they had given him such a high standard of welcome. "Get up. Let's talk inside." Luli waved his hand and walked in first. Ling Qinyan and Pan Yuqin followed him. The other scouts stood up but didn't follow. Even though they were top-level scouts, they didn't dare to look into Luli's information on their own. Inside the main hall, Ling Qinyan activated the inhibition formation. Luli asked in surprise, "Only the two of you? Where are Pan King and the others?" "Back to the land of Yuyan." Ling Qinyan explained, "There are so many people and forces in the land of Yuyan, there needs to be someone there. Moreover, I recently received news that some demon scouts have appeared there. There are too many humans there now, so we can't let the demons wreak havoc there." Luli nodded. He looked at Pan Yuqin and asked, "Is one of the 3 ten-winged demons fake?" Pan Yuqin got up and bowed. She said with some shame, "It's Yuqin's negligence. One of the 3 ten-winged demons here is indeed in disguise. Fortunately, your battle prowess is strong, and you managed to escape. Otherwise, I would be a sinner of the human race." "No wonder." Luli was relieved. Then he comforted her, "It is not your fault. Yuxing is too cunning. By the way, how's the situation at the demon camp?" "It is a remarkable achievement." Ling Qinyan gave him a thumbs up. "Even though all the worms of the void have been consumed, at least 7 or 8 million demons have been killed. It is a pity that they have built a formation, or else 10 to 20 million demons would have been killed. The demons would have been weakened." "Good." Luli was comforted. Losing so many worms of the void and a mountain had made up for the loss. He thought about it and asked, "Lady Qin, where are the 2 ten-winged demons now?" "I don't know." Pan Yuqin shook her head. "The 2 ten-winged demons and the one in disguise are very good at hiding. They have disappeared again and nobody knows where they are. Luli, you can put your mind at ease. There are many inhibition formations of the Elder God nearby and I have set up some puzzles. Yuxing and the others cannot find us here." Luli paused for a moment and asked, "Have all the troops been dismissed?" "Yes, they have gone into hiding," Pan Yuqin explained bitterly. She sighed. "We cannot fight against 3 ten-winged demons. Zuoqiulu and Luoguan don't even have the courage to come out. Even the 9 immortals of the land of Yuyan cannot fight against 3 ten-winged demons. If Yuxing changes his strategy, he can gather all the armies together and conquer cities and territories. It will take some time, but he can still conquer the divinity." "Well, that is why I came back," Luli said with determination. "I am going to undergo the heavens tribulation soon. As long as I can, at least I can run away from the 10-winged demons. If I can survive, I can use the worms of the void to nibble away at the demons' armies." Ling Qinyan and Pan Yuqin were not surprised. They believed that Luli had come back for the heavens tribulation. Ling Qinyan sighed. "Have you really decided to take the risk? There are 3 heavens tribulations. The first is wind and fire, the second is thunder, and the third is soul. I am not worried about the first 2. You still have hope. The third one is the most dangerous. You are still young. You have too many worries and inner demons. You will be doomed eternally if you are not careful." Luli was prepared for this. He asked calmly, "What will happen if I fail the tribulation of mind and soul?" Silence of the soul. Ling Qinyan looked up and sighed. "You will float in the sky forever until the energy in your body runs out and you die. You will become a mummy floating in the sky for eternity. Unless you have a friend or a descendant who is going to undergo the heaven's tribulation, they can bring your body back. I see. Luli said with determination. Prince Yen, do you have any books on heaven's tribulation? I will take a look and cultivate for a few more days. After that, I will begin the heaven's tribulation. Luli! Pan Yuqin shouted. She was touched. There was a trace of sadness and mixed feelings in her eyes. She wanted to say something but didn't know what to say. Luli said, Life and death are decreed by fate. I know it is dangerous, but the divinity is running out of time. Alas, Ling Qinyan sighed. He took out some books and handed them to Luli. These are the experiences of generations of Prince Yen. I hope they can be of help to you. Luli, you must come back alive. You are a man of indomitable spirit. The divinity needs you and so do we. The last sentence was a bit ambiguous. Ling Qingyan's eyes were glistening, which made Luli's heart skip a beat. Pan Yuqin was shy. Somehow, she plucked up her courage. She nodded and said, Yes, Luli, you must come back alive. I don't have many friends. You are the most important one. Ha ha ha. Chapter 1667. Luli had been in closed-door cultivation for 5 days. A few days was not enough for him to calm down completely. Today, he received a message that 3 ten-winged demons had shown up and returned to the base camp of the demons. Unfortunately, Pan Yuqin was right. After half a day of rest and reorganization, the demon army began to march out. Emperor Yoshing must have changed his strategy. He would rather spend more time than to split up the demon army so that Luli would not have the chance to nibble away at the demon army. The 3 ten-winged demons marched on with the demon army. Nobody dared to stop them. It would take a long time to conquer the divinity, but it was the safest and easiest way to succeed. Luli was relieved to hear the news. He still had time. The divinity was a vast place. It would take 8 to 10 years for the demon army to conquer the divinity bit by bit. Luli decided to go back to closed-door cultivation. He felt he was not calm enough. He was too anxious and had too many things on his mind. He needed time to calm himself down and to stabilize his energy, chi and spirit to the peak. Luli came out after half a month of closed-door cultivation. He didn't ask anything. He just looked at Pan Yuqin. Pan Yuqin nodded slightly, then sent out all the scouts to investigate the surrounding situation. She was trying to keep the news under wraps for Luli so that his heaven's tribulation would not be leaked. An hour later, the jade talismans in Pan Yuqin's hand cracked. She nodded to Luli to tell him that everything was fine. Luli looked at her and Ling Qinyan, and then flew up into the sky. The gravity in the divinity was strong. When Luli just ascended, he could not jump high. Later on, when he was a mighty warrior in the divinity, he could fly, albeit with difficulty. That being said, flying was too slow. Later on, Luli had to rely on the mountain to fly. Only when he reached the realm where he could fly as fast as the mountain did he rely on himself. He didn't fly too fast. He kept going upward at a constant speed. He took out a cold weapon. He had been reading the books about heaven's tribulation given by Ling Qinyan and had gained some understanding of it. The heaven's tribulation was not entirely about defense. With the right attack, the heaven's tribulation could be stopped. The heaven's tribulation was a test of comprehensive abilities, not defense. The higher they went, the stronger the gravity became. Luli was not worried because he knew there would be a tipping point. As long as he flew past that critical point, there would be no gravity. With his strength, flying up would be no problem at all. 1,000 miles, 5,000 miles, 10,000 miles. He could no longer see anything below him, and he had become a small black dot, like a speck of dust. He passed through the clouds and continued to fly upward, but his speed was getting slower and slower. Finally, Luli had passed the critical point. He felt his body was loosened. He was like a fish that had been freed from its shackles, flying happily. He rested for a moment, then looked at the blue mist above his head. He knew that this was the first level of the heavenly tribulation, the tribulation of wind and fire. Although it was just a blue fog, there were horrifying astral winds and divine flames in it. Ordinary cultivators would be instantly killed if they entered the blue fog, leaving nothing behind. Go! Lu Li's holy grade armor was destroyed. As a matter of fact, Ling Qinyan had won. If Lu Li asked her for it, she would give it to him. That being said, even with the primordial spirit armor, Lu Li would not be able to take the heavens' tribulation. The astral winds, divine flames and thunderbolts could all penetrate the armor and attack Lu Li. Lu Li also put away the cloaking armor, revealing the black scales all over his body. With determination in his eyes, he flew up quickly and approached the blue haze. Only when he was close to the blue fog did he see that the airflow in the blue fog was wriggling, like a whirlpool at the bottom of the sea. No, it was not airflow but flames. The closer he was, the hotter Lu Li felt. He began to sweat and his white hair was soaked. His cheeks were red. He made up his mind to get closer to the blue fog. Swish, swish, Lu Li's hair was on fire, and his eyebrows and beard were smoking. But Lu Li kept moving forward. When he entered the blue fog, he felt he was in a furnace. The blue flames began to roast him. His scales began to smoke. The blue flames had penetrated his scales and penetrated into his body, burning his flesh, bones, internal organs, and even his soul. This is too much. Ah, Lu Li growled in pain. He felt like he had been thrown into boiling lava. He was lucky that his body was strong, or else he would have been roasted by the flames. Lu Li's body had been growing stronger as he cultivated. The soul ripple in the Valley of Daimons had improved his body. Now regular immortals could stand still and let them cut them down. Lu Li's body seemed to be made of molten iron. It would be difficult for average flames to burn him down. Move! Even though Lu Li could stand it, he could not let the flames burn him down. He flew up slowly, but he could not go too fast. It was clearly stated in the book given by Prince of Yen that the faster he moved, the faster he would die. Once he moved, he would be attacked by the strong wind, which would attract more and more flames. By then, no matter how strong his body was, he would still die. Phew, as soon as Lu Li moved, he would feel the wind. That wind was different from regular wind. This wind could cut his flesh like knives. Lu Li felt he was being cut by thousands of knives as he moved. His black scales were cracked. It was horrifying. That is horrifying! Lu Li exclaimed to himself. If he could speed up here, say, at the top of his speed, he would be minced by the wind in an instant. Hiss, hiss, ah, the blue flames continued to burn, and the surface of his skin had already turned into charcoal, emitting black smoke. His face had long since changed beyond recognition. The pain of the fleshly body was nothing, but the burning of the soul was the most excruciating. Hang in there. This kind of burning was beneficial to both the body and the soul. After a period of time, the body and the soul would grow stronger. Of course, nobody would want to stay here forever. It was more painful than death by dismembering a piece of flesh. Lu Li flew on slowly, stirring up the strong wind. His black scales were shredded and his body was a bloody mess. The blood was dried up. Looking from afar, Lu Li looked like a mummy. What? All of a sudden, Lu Li stopped. He was taken aback. To his surprise, he noticed something. The demonic energy in him was diminishing. When the flames were burning his body, the demonic energy was extinguished as well. Good! Even though he was in great pain, Lu Li was excited. He had been troubled by the demonic energy for a long time. Finally, there was a way to get rid of it. Finally, he could become a human being. Nobody wanted to be neither a human nor a ghost. He could not even get close to Qian Huanhan or hug his wife, Qi Shi'er, which made him miserable. Finally, he could be free. Ah! After the time for one breath, Lu Li made up his mind and decided to stay here for a while until all the demonic energy was gone. It was like suffering in hell. But it was worth it to become a human being again. P.S. I have something to do today. 4 chapters tomorrow. Chapter 1668. Everyone would seek good fortune and avoid calamity. They would pursue beautiful things and avoid painful things. Usually, only people with mental problems would torture themselves. Lu Li was like a lunatic at the moment. As a matter of fact, the first heaven's tribulation was not difficult. As long as one had a strong body and flew slowly, one could endure the pain for some time. Given Lu Li's physical strength, it was not difficult. But he chose to stay in the first heaven's tribulation, and it seemed that he would have to stay for a long time. The demonic energy was being burned away bit by bit. There was too much demonic energy in his body. There was a limit to how much pain a person could endure. If he was tortured for a long time, his mind would not be able to take it. He would either break down or lose his mind. Lu Li's ability to endure pain was not bad. When he was in the mortal world, he was tortured for 3 days and 3 nights at the wicked sorcery mountain. He went through it many times as well. His willpower to endure pain was strong. He kept taking healing pellets and using divine energy to heal himself so that his body would not be burned. He was healed again and again, but he was burned again and again. He was hovering between heaven and hell. He would never forget this feeling for the rest of his life. 3 days, 5 days, 8 days. Lu Li himself could not stand it anymore. He was losing his mind, and he had only gotten rid of half of the demonic energy in his body. Lu Li thought about leaving, but he didn't know if there was something special about this heaven's tribulation. What would happen if he left? Nobody knew. It was not written in the book. Those who came for the heaven's tribulation were prepared to make it or die. Lu Li thought about it and decided not to leave. If he did not have the courage to face death, and wanted to leave at the first heaven's tribulation, how could he go through the other 2? The third heaven was the soul tribulation. Without the courage to press forward, there was no way he could go through it. Lu Li had a card up his sleeve, the dragon's soul. He believed that when his soul was about to collapse, the dragon's soul would protect him. Therefore, his soul would not collapse. The only thing he was worried about was that he would lose his mind. When that happened, the dragon's soul would not be able to protect him. Lu Li would have to rely on his willpower to survive. He believed in his willpower and that he could go through it. He also believed that after this ordeal, his willpower would be stronger, which would be helpful for the third soul tribulation. 10 days, 12 days. Lu Li had become muddle-headed. Because of the excessive pain and suffering, he had become numb to it. He could no longer tell reality from illusion. He had this feeling before when the demonic aura affected his soul. During that period of time, he had also become muddle-headed, no different from now. There was only less than half of the demon's breath left. It would probably be gone in 3 or 4 days. However, Lu Li had an idea in his mind. He didn't want to hold on any longer. He might as well just die and be done with it. There was another thought that kept appearing in his mind. He couldn't give up. He had to persevere. Only then would he be able to survive and become a real person. There is an angel and a devil living in everyone's heart. There will be persistence and there will be abandonment. There would be confusion, but there would also be choices. With a single thought, one could become a god. With a single thought, one could become a demon. Everything depended on a single thought. The 2 thoughts in Lu Li's mind were fighting for control, but at the moment, the desire to persevere and survive was still the dominant one. Deep in Lu Li's heart, he kept telling him not to give up. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. The demon's breath in Lu Li's body was almost gone. But he closed his eyes. His breaths were unstable. Every now and then, he would show signs of struggle and pain. He floated in the air, motionless. He didn't try to heal his wounds. It seemed that his soul had fallen into silence. He could not wake up and he could not control his body. Half a day, then a day. Luli still did not open his eyes. His wounds were serious because of the fire. If he could not wake up, he would eventually turn into charcoal and float here for eternity. Another half a day later, Luli suddenly opened his eyes. There was no confusion in his eyes. He was as calm as a cold beast. His mouth twitched. He realized that the muscles on his face were almost charred. He took out some pellets from the wicked bead at once and threw them into his mouth. The flames here were too strong. Average interspatial rings might not be able to stand it. Therefore, he threw all the treasures in his interspatial ring into the wicked bead. The bead was a supreme relic. Blood Fairy had modified the formations on it, making it stronger. Luli took some healing pellet. The efficacy spread throughout his body and his wounds began to heal. Even though Luli was still in pain, his mind was in a good mood. Over the past few days, he had completely suppressed the negative emotions. He felt his soul was sublimated. At this moment, his willpower was very firm, and it was very difficult to shake his will under any circumstances. The strengthening of his soul did not mean that it was sublimated. This time, Luli felt his soul was sublimated. It was said that going through heaven's tribulation could sublimate in all aspects, including combat abilities. This was only the first heaven's tribulation. Luli realized that his soul had been sublimated and his physical body must have improved as well. Move! When his wounds were healed, Luli began to move. He knew that the first heaven's tribulation had just begun. The blue haze was dozens of miles wide. He would have to endure more pain to go through. But he was fearless. His soul was as solid as a rock, unassailable. As soon as he moved, the astral wind blew over and began to cut his flesh, as if countless small knives were slashing across his body. But Luli seemed to be immune to pain. He had gone through too much pain in the past more than a dozen days. First, he was in a frying pan and now, he was in hot water. Could he feel anything? Luli flew up bit by bit. After 4 hours, he had arrived at the top of the blue haze. He was about to go through the haze. The first heaven's tribulation would be over. He didn't speed up and rush out. Instead, his eyes became extremely solemn. The haze here was thick, which meant that the flames here would be more aggressive and the wind would be more ferocious. Luli stopped to tend to his wounds. He planned to recover more than half of his wounds before he could go through at one go. He took more than a dozen healing pellets and at the same time, healed himself quickly. His physical body was being burned and healed. He was much stronger now. He was confident that he could go through. After 6 hours of healing, Luli continued to fly up slowly. But he didn't speed up. Granted, he could go through in the time for one breath if he did so. But he knew that would be courting death. The horrifying wind would tear his body apart. Hiss, hiss, when he reached the top, the divine flame was indeed horrifying. Luli's body was badly burned. But he didn't stop to tend to his wounds. He made up his mind and flew up. When he was almost roasted, he finally made his way out. Phew, phew! Looking at the clear sky, Luli suddenly felt how beautiful the world was. He flew up quickly. After he was more than 3 miles away, he took some healing pellets without thinking. Then, he floated in the air and passed out. High up in the sky, a man that was roasted was floating in the air. If regular immortals were to see this, they would think they had seen a ghost. Chapter 1669. Luli woke up after sleeping for 3 days and 4 nights. He had taken some healing pellets and his body had a strong self-healing ability. By the time he woke up, he was more than half healed. He sat in the void and began to treat his wounds. At the same time, he began to analyze how to go about the next 2 tribulations. The first heaven's tribulation had tortured him, but he had gained a direct understanding of it. It was much more horrifying than described in the books. It was not that the heaven's tribulation was too strong, but Lu Li's abilities were weaker than those of previous kings of Yen. It had not been long since Lu Li became an immortal. When others went through heaven's tribulations, they were thousands or tens of thousands of years old. In terms of body, divine energy, soul, defense, abilities, and state of mind, Lu Li had reached the peak of super mighty warriors in the divinity. Many people had to prepare for heaven's tribulations for hundreds of years. No one could go through heaven's tribulations at will like Lu Li. Previous kings of Yen had been preparing for many years. For them, the first trial was a piece of cake. They would be fine as long as they were not too fast. But for Lu Li, it was more horrifying than described in the books. That was why he was thinking about how to go through the next two trials. Even he himself knew that his foundation was too weak. Perhaps his battle prowess was already stronger than the average God World Supreme Being, but his comprehensive abilities in all aspects were still very weak. Here, one didn't just rely on one's battle prowess, but all aspects of one's abilities. Heaven's tribulation, heaven's tribulation. At the end of the day, this was a test from the gods. Warriors had to go against nature, but the gods wanted to stop them. If you wanted to go against nature, you must be tested by the gods. If you could pass the test in all aspects, the gods would recognize your abilities and grant you something. This is no different from exploring the purgatory of primordial chaos in the mortal world. An idea came to Lu Li's mind. The purgatory of primordial chaos was also a trial that mortals must go through if they wanted to go against nature and come to the divinity. If they could go through it, they could ascend to the divinity. If they could not, they would die. Heaven's tribulation was the same. If they could go through it, their abilities would be enhanced and they could go to the second heaven. If they could not, they would still die. Go against nature? God? This God can't be a god, right? Lu Li gazed into the sky. Once again, he felt there was a huge hand controlling the fate of all living beings in the universe. He had set the rules of the game, and everyone was following them. If anyone dared to violate the rules, they would be mercilessly killed. At this moment, Lu Li felt like they were frogs at the bottom of a well. They were trying their best to climb up the well and jump out to see the scenery outside. Or perhaps, they all wanted to escape from the well. Hence, they had to climb up step by step. The path to the well was extremely difficult and dangerous. A single misstep would result in death. After a while, Lu Li got rid of the distracting thoughts in his mind. It was pointless to think about it now. Since he had already come this far, he could only muster up his courage and push forward. If he did not succeed, he would die trying. After 3 days of treatment, Lu Li's wounds were completely healed and his physical body was stronger. He was not in a hurry to go up. Instead, he continued to rest on the spot, restoring his body to its peak state. 2 days later, Lu Li made his move. He slowly continued to fly upwards, his eyes closed. He did not have to look at the second heaven's test. He had to rely on his senses. The second heaven's test was a thunderbolt. It was pointless to see it with one's eyes. By the time one could see it, the thunderbolt would have struck down. Lu Li flew up slowly with his eyes closed. He was on high alert, sensing the ripples in space at all times. When thunderbolts were attacking, there would be violent ripples in space. Lu Li carried the sword in his hand. He must overcome the first heaven's test with force or else he would not be able to survive it. The sword glowed as Lu Li was ready to strike at any moment. Swish, the space above and to the left suddenly trembled. Without thinking, Lu Li hacked at the space above and to the left. A ray of sword light rose. The sword made a turn in the air and then hacked at the left. Swish, swish. A thunderbolt suddenly appeared on the left. The thunderbolt was not of one color, but 5. The thunderbolt was as thick as a human head. It whooshed across the sky toward Lu Li. Lu Li's cut of Ghost King whooshed on with horrifying force in heaven and earth. What Lu Li wanted was not to use cut of Ghost King to offset the thunderbolt. He wanted to use force in heaven and earth to slow down the thunderbolts so that he could dodge. Just like the first heavens test, the faster he flew, the more dangerous it would be. If Lu Li flew up as fast as he would attract tens of thousands of thunderbolts. Even supreme warriors in the divinity would be killed, let alone Lu Li. It works! Lu Li was delighted to sense that the thunderbolts were slowing down. He flew up slowly. He only flew up for more than 1,000 feet before the five-colored thunderbolt whooshed on from below. He had successfully dodged it. Swish, another bolt of lightning came down from the sky. Without thinking, Lu Li cut at it with his saber. Then he dodged to the left and continued to fly upwards. This time, Lu Li was able to dodge it. The force in heaven and earth that the cut of Ghost King could even slow down the speed of thunderbolts. Swish, 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 however, as Lu Li kept flying upwards, the thunderbolts became more intense. After Lu Li dodged two more, 3 thunderbolts appeared in the sky at the same time, coming at him from 3 different directions. Phew, phew, Lu Li took a deep breath. He was not surprised at all. He had known this would happen. It was written in the books. This was just the beginning. There would be more to come. Whoosh! Lu Li used cut of Ghost King with his left hand and took out Demon Slayer with his right hand. He used the Slayer's move and sped up. He couldn't block the lightning bolt above his head, so he could only rely on his physical body to resist it. Swish, swish. A 5-colored thunderbolt whooshed down and hit Lu Li. His entire body began to tremble as if he was having an epileptic fit. His skin and flesh began to emit the smell of roasted meat, and his mouth seemed like it was about to spit fire. That is strong. Lu Li spat. He felt like he was struck by thunderbolts for the first time in the mortal world. His physical body was strong now. The thunderbolt could hurt him at once. It was not hard to imagine how powerful it was. I wonder if wearing the thunderclap armor will be of any use? Can I absorb thunderbolts? An idea came to Lu Li's mind. He had given the thunder armor to Qi Shi. What was more, the thunder armor might not work. After all, this was a heaven's test, not an average thunderbolt. The thunderbolt was so penetrative that Lu Li felt it spread across his body as soon as it hit him. The thunder armor could only absorb thunderbolts outside his body, but not inside his body. It would be great if I could build a formation in my body as well. While Lu Li was thinking, he felt as if he was struck by lightning. He remembered something, the formation inside the immortal's body. He had been studying the formation in the immortal's body for a long time, but he could not grasp the gist of it. At this moment, Lu Li suddenly had an epiphany. He figured out many things. He rolled his eyes and stood still. He had forgotten that he was in danger. Chapter 1670. My body is the strongest below the third plane of the divinity. There is a method to cultivate an immortal's body. Whether you can learn it or not will depend on your luck. That was what Emperor Zi's remnant soul said before it dissipated. Lu Li finally understood how strong Emperor Zi's body was when he was alive. The strongest below the third plane of the divinity meant that Emperor Z was at least a third tribulation god or even a fourth tribulation god. Inside Emperor Zi's body was a powerful cultivation method. That being said, there were many complicated formations in the immortal's body which Lu Li was not interested in. He believed that the human body was in perfect condition. Adding some formations in the body would turn the body into a puppet or a monster. Naturally, Lu Li was against it. What was more, the formations in Emperor Zi's body were too complicated. Lu Li could not understand many of them. Therefore, he gave up on this method after a period of time without making any progress. Now, he had figured out many things. The human body was a natural formation. There were 720 acupoints in the human body, which meant 720 formation stones. The human body had so many energy channels and blood vessels, which were dense formations. The human body's muscles and bones were the foundation, the internal organs were the core, and the soul was the eye. Humans were the most intelligent of all creatures. Why did they not have a strong body like a beast? Why did they not have the constitution of those strange races and the special skills? Without wings, humans could not fly. Without scales, humans could not have strong defensive abilities. Even so, humans with weak bodies still dominated the world, the 9 universes, and the divinity. That was because the human body was the most perfect, the most suitable for cultivation, and the human body had the most perfect formation. The human body could absorb Xian energy in heaven and earth to strengthen itself, to become stronger, to resist harsh environments, to fly in the sky, to borrow strength in heaven and earth, and to kill all enemies. How could humans cultivate? If a person's constitution was not good enough, no matter how smart he was, he could not cook a meal without rice. It meant that the human body was the most perfect and blessed by heaven. The human body had the most perfect formation, which was the most suitable for cultivation. Without the formation, how could one transform Xian energy in heaven and earth into one's own strength? Without the formation, how could one borrow strength in heaven and earth to release such a powerful skill? All of a sudden, Luli figured out many things. He was less resistant to Emperor Zi's cultivation method. The human body had always been a powerful spirit design. The Purple Emperor's secret cultivation technique had only made this spirit design even stronger. He had set up some strange spirit designs inside, making the corporeal body even stronger. Luli remembered that when he was in the beast divine realm, he absorbed the liquid of dragons and stored it in his 720 acupoints. Back then, his body was strengthened. From the looks of it now, perhaps 720 acupoints had been amplified, which was equivalent to 720 formation stones. Once a large formation stone was strengthened, its defense would naturally increase. Was that? He could think of a way to set up a lightning-gathering formation in his body and then absorb all the lightning and store it in his 720 acupoints. If he could really do it, the formation stone in his body would become extremely powerful. At that time, his defense would also be extremely terrifying. Why did he come here to undergo the heavenly tribulation? Wasn't it to increase his battle prowess? He needed to increase his overall combat power. Only then would he be able to resist the 10-winged demon's attack and reverse the situation. Now that he had the chance to do so, why was he in such a hurry to go through the heavenly tribulation? Therefore, he was not in a hurry to go through the heavenly tribulation. Instead, he sat in the air with his legs crossed and began to cultivate. Just because he did not move did not mean that thunderbolts would not come. Every once in a while, a bolt of lightning would come down. Luli was trembling and his skin was charred. Fortunately, the thunderbolts here were not too strong. Luli could stand it. He did not move. The thunderbolts slowed down. Every 2 to 4 hours there would only be one. Every time, he would take some healing pellets to heal his body. Luli had made great achievements in formations. Only a handful of warriors in the divinity could surpass him. The thunder armor was designed by him in the past. Therefore, it was easy for him to build these formations. The problem now was how to do it. If he were to do it in other places, he could use formation stones. But how could he carve formations inside a human body? Should he cut open his body and put some formation stones inside? Then, wouldn't he become a monster that was neither a human nor a ghost? He had just gotten rid of the demonic energy in his body. The black scales disappeared, and he became a pure human. Now, he was asked to modify his body and turn himself into a monster? Luli might as well kill him. What was more, the human body was a natural formation. Adding something to it would cause problems with the natural formation. By then, Luli could become a useless man. I cannot add anything else. I can only modify the original foundation. Luli took out the immortal's body from the wicked bead. He used psychic power to check. Blood Fairy asked with curiosity, "Master, what is it? What is it?" "Nothing. I am just studying the formations inside the immortal's body," Luli replied and continued to observe. There were many formations inside the immortal's body. Luli could sense them easily. Every bone, muscle, and energy channel in the immortal's body had formations. Luli felt there was an invisible net inside the immortal's body. That net had a strong ability that could strengthen the immortal's body. How did he carve the formations? Luli frowned. He could not figure it out. If the formations were to be carved in regular ways, the formations would dissipate easily. However, the formations in the immortal's body were permanent. Many times, the formations in the immortal's body were destroyed, but they could be repaired. Blood Fairy, Luli observed for a while and asked, "How do you think I can carve formations in the human body?" "I can make the formations permanently take root in the body." Carving formations in the human body? Blood Fairy thought for a long time before she replied, "I don't think it will work in regular ways. External forces must be used. If there is strong energy, Master can guide the energy and carve a formation in the body. The formation will be integrated with the body. In this way, the formation can be maintained for a long time. Also, energy must be replenished from time to time or the formation will dissipate." External forces? Luli frowned. Could he absorb energy in heaven and earth and carve the formations with divine energy? But could divine power carve it? Divine energy was not powerful enough. It was mild. It could not be integrated. Boom! From the sky, a bolt of 5-colored thunderbolt whooshed down and struck Luli. A surge of domineering energy swept across Luli's body, injuring his recovered muscles and bones again. Out of instinct, Luli trembled. However, he was shocked inside. It was not because of the thunderbolt. Rather, he noticed a very domineering energy. Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts had the dual attributes of destruction and rebirth. They were extremely domineering. They could destroy Luli's body and bones. Wasn't destruction equal to rebirth? When Luli was reborn, he could use thunderbolts to carve formations in his body. When the new muscles and bones were engraved into the formation, wouldn't it be a perfect integration? Luli built the thunder-gathering formation and stored the thunderbolts in the 720 acupuncture point. He could mobilize thunderbolts to replenish the formation at any time. Everything was perfect. Okay, let's do it. Chapter 1671. In the backyard of the Snow Moon Temple, Ling Qinyan was lying on her side on a rattan chair. Her perfect figure was even more exaggerated because she was lying on her side. If a naive young man were here, he would have a nosebleed just by looking at her. She was caressing the little white spiritual pet on her chest with one hand and eating a spiritual fruit with the other. She looked at Pan Yuqin, who was sitting cross-legged next to her, and asked, "Qin girl, how many days has it been?" Pan Yuqin opened her eyes and said, 23 days. Ling Qinyan looked into the sky and murmured with a frown, "He should be dead by now, or he has passed the heavens' tribulation. What is he doing up there?" Pan Yuqin had a jade talisman of life in her hand. The jade talisman was not broken, which meant that Luli was still alive. She shook her head and said, "I don't know. He must have run into some difficulties and is stuck in one of the heavens' tribulations. I hope it is not the third one." Ling Qinyan sighed. "He can be saved if he is stuck in the first or second one. But if he is stuck in the third one, then nobody can save him. The longer he is stuck in the third one, the more likely it is that his soul will be in silence. If his soul is in silence, then the divinity will be in danger." Prince Yen. Pan Yuqin stood up, cupped her fists and said, "Can you go up and have a look? If you can, please help him." "No, and I can't," Ling Qinyan said. "One can only go through the heavens' tribulations by himself. If someone else helps, it will be against the law of nature. Luli and I will be killed in an instant. Nobody can help him, or else there will be a lot of supreme warriors in the divinity. You're just too concerned." "Yes." Pan Yuqin forced a smile. She looked into the sky and murmured, "Can he come back? How long will it take?" 1 month. Ling Qinyan looked into the sky as well and said, "If he cannot come back in a month, then he will never come back." There were many scouts around the Snow Moon Temple. Many of the best human scouts were gathered here. However, what was interesting was that there was a huge mountain 1,000 miles away from the Snow Moon Temple. Inside the mountain was a secluded valley, and inside the valley, there were 2 old men playing chess. However, none of these top-notch scouts were able to detect them. Both of them were old men. One of them was a thin and hale old man, while the other looked like an enlightened old man. He even held a palm leaf fan in his hand. 23 days. The skinny old man looked at the old man holding a cattail leaf fan and said, "Star Emperor, don't you want to go up and have a look? What if Luli died up there? Since you are here, it means that you care about Luli. If so, why don't you help him?" Blood Emperor, you are still so persistent. Astro Sovereign stroked his long beard and said with a smile, "If I wanted to help him, I would have helped him in the 9 realms. Have you ever thought about what would have happened if I had helped him in the 9 realms? Help him in the 9 realms? Blood Emperor was surprised. He had never thought about this. Blood Emperor put down a chess piece and said, "If I had helped Luli in the 9 realms, helped him kill the Yin family and unified the 9 universes, would Luli have ascended so quickly? Or, after he came to the divinity, if I had helped him kill Yen Tiangang, god of wings, and all his enemies, what would happen to Luli now? What kind of abilities does he have now?" What? Blood Emperor was at a loss for words. Astro Sovereign continued with a smile. If Luli didn't go to the tomb of King Luna, the Chamber of Relics, and the Craftsman's sect didn't hunt him down, if he didn't go to the land of Yuyan, the tomb of King Luna, or the Sea of Demons, could he have reached such a high level today? Could he have improved so fast? Blood Emperor seemed to understand something. Astro Sovereign took a sip of tea and said, "There are many talented people in the world. There are some who are more talented than Luli Pan Yuqin, Luo Huang, and Zhuochuyan. But how could Luli surpass them? How could he become a warrior at the peak of the divinity? How could a flower in a greenhouse stand the blow of a storm? How could an eagle that has not learned to spread its wings soar in the sky? Sometimes, to help a person may be to harm him. Any powerful warrior that wants to stand at the top of the world must go through many trials and tribulations. Take the Slayer, for example. How could he have created the Slayer's move without going through so much?" "I understand now." The worry on Blood Emperor's face vanished. He nodded. "We can care about him, but we cannot help him. Otherwise, we will be spoiling him through excessive enthusiasm." "Yes." Blood Emperor stroked his beard. "Luli is one of the 7 trials. He is destined to endure many hardships in his life. He will experience pain and trials that others cannot. He will either rise to the top or perish completely." "What if?" Blood Emperor thought for a while and asked a pointed question, "What will you do if Luli dies?" "I have no choice." Astro Sovereign shook his head and sighed. "I can only take care of his family secretly and then go to the next 7 trials. If he dies, it will prove that he is not the one I am looking for. It will prove that he is not qualified to take." Astro Sovereign said nothing else. Blood Emperor looked into the sky, waved his hand and said, "Okay. Let's get back to the game. We will know in a month at most. Whether he can survive the heavens' tribulation or not will depend on whether he can come back in a month." Luli was still in closed-door cultivation. He did not know that many people were worried about him, nor did he know that the 9 universes, Astro Sovereign and Blood Emperor, had been paying attention to him. He had been cultivating in the second heaven's tribulation for 7 or 8 days. As time went on, the frequency of thunderbolts became more and more frequent. At first, there would be one every 2 to 4 hours. Now, it had been the time for every 2 incense sticks to burn. Fortunately, he had been in the first heaven's tribulation for a long time. His physical body had improved. Now, he could stand every thunderbolt that could hurt him. His body could recover fast as well. He could take some healing pellets every now and then. Luli knew very well that the thunderbolts had sped up. He was not surprised. Even if the second heaven's tribulation stayed still, it would become more and more horrifying as time went on. In a couple of days there would be more thunderbolt. Later on, there might be more thunderbolts at the same time. Luli had once again experienced the torment of his body being torn apart and healed. He was used to it. He was not in pain at all. Instead, he was excited. Because he had spent so many days. Soon, he was going to use the energy of thunderbolts to carve the formation in his body. As long as he could do that, he would be fine even if there were tens of thousands of thunderbolts, let alone several in a row. Also, the more thunderbolts there were, the more energy of thunderbolts would be stored in his body. The stronger his body was, the more powerful his defense would be. By then, he could even fight a 10-winged demon face to face. P.S. Chapter 4. Chapter 1672. Boom, boom, boom. Another 5 days passed by. Thunderbolts kept striking down. Since Luli was in closed-door cultivation, he had no time to tend to his wounds. His injuries were getting worse and worse. If this went on, his source of life would be destroyed. Luli kept his eyes closed. Apart from the slight tremble when he was struck by thunderbolts, there was no expression on his face. He didn't do anything either. He just floated in midair like a dead body. Boom, boom, the number of thunderbolts suddenly increased to 2. Luli was even more emotionless now because the skin on his face was burnt. He couldn't move even if he wanted to. Luli was in a dangerous situation. It was highly likely that he would die at this rate. But he still didn't do anything. He didn't even take any healing pellets, let alone try to heal himself. Another day passed by. The number of thunderbolts had increased to 3. Luli finally opened his eyes. His eyes were glowing with excitement. After such a long time, he finally succeeded in carving the formation with the energy of thunderbolt. He had built 1 thunder-gathering formation and 10 storage formations. The clustering formation was carved into the bones in his chest. It was integrated with his bones and could not be separated. He had built the 10 storage formations in 10 acupoints. He had tried several times just now. The energy of thunderbolts would be absorbed by the thunder-gathering formation as soon as it entered his body. Then the energy of thunderbolts would be separated and injected into the 10 storage formations. Boom, 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 3 bolts of thunderbolts kept striking down, but they could not hurt Luli anymore. As soon as the thunderbolts entered his body, they would be absorbed by the thunder-gathering formation and stored in the 10 acupoints. Okay. Luli was overjoyed to make sure that the formation was working after a while. He took some healing pellets and healed himself. While he was healing, Luli continued to build more formation. He needed to build 720 storage formations in his body in order to store enough energy of thunderbolts and use the energy of thunderbolts to strengthen his body. That was right. After the energy of thunderbolts entered his acupoints, it would transform them, making them stronger and strengthening his body. At the moment, Luli could feel his body was strengthening. It was slow, but with time, his body would grow stronger. Most importantly, once all 720 acupoints were successfully modified, the speed of his physical body's improvement would greatly increase. Luli had forgotten that he was still in the heavens tribulation, that the armies of demons were still attacking from the divinity, and that many people were worried about him. He was engrossed in the modification process. More accurately, he was engrossed in adding more arrays to his body. He was setting up an array in his body. If this matter were to spread out, it would definitely cause an uproar in the immortal realm. After all, this kind of behavior was too strange and too strange. If it were not for Emperor Z, Luli would not have dared to act recklessly. Time passed by quickly. 5 thunderbolts had struck down, but Luli's skin had recovered. It was as smooth as a baby's. Even his hair and beard began to grow. Those terrifying lightning bolts that struck his body were unable to cause him any harm. Luli quickly built the thunder storage formation in his acupoint. Practice makes perfect. Now, he could build 3 formations in a day. However, there were too many acupoints in the body. It would take at least half a year to set them all up. Half a year. It should be fine. Luli remembered that the armies of demons would not disperse at the moment. The 3 10-winged demons would lead the armies and attack slowly. In this way, it would take at least several years for them to conquer the divinity. Therefore, half a year was not a problem. If Luli did not have powerful abilities, he would not be able to do anything even if the armies of demons were going to wipe out the human race. Luli forgot about everything else and sped up his work. As time went by, more and more thunderbolts struck down. Luli's body was growing stronger and faster. As soon as all the thunderbolts entered his body, they would be absorbed by the thunder storage formation and then dispersed to the thunder storage formation. The energy of thunderbolts in the thunder storage formation would nourish his acupoints and body. It would also replenish the thunder storage formation. A cycle would be formed. 3 months had passed. Luli was still building the formations on the acupoints, but some people were in despair. Pan Yuqin had not cultivated recently. She sat listlessly all day, as if she had lost her soul. In 3 months, the armies of demons had wiped out more than a dozen prefectures. Wherever the armies of demons went, no human warriors or armies dared to stop them. The only thing Pan Yuqin and the others could do was to teleport humans away to the west or north as soon as possible. Ling Qinyan was not in a good mood as well. She seemed to be calm, but she hardly smiled recently. Usually, heaven's tribulation would last 1 or 2 months. However, Luli had been gone for 4 or 5 months. If it were not for the fact that something unexpected happened, then there would only be one outcome. Luli's soul would be dormant and he might never wake up again. Ling Qinyan had been through the heavens tribulation and she knew very well how horrifying the tribulation of mind and soul was. She almost couldn't make it back. Luli was young and he was not mature enough. He had too many concerns and attached great importance to emotions. It was the most dangerous for a person like him to go through heaven's tribulation. But Ling Qinyan did not go up to check. If someone who was not going through the heavens tribulation went up, the heavens tribulation would be doubled. She might not be able to come down even if she went up. More importantly, it would be pointless for her to go up. If Luli's soul was dormant, she would only bring his body back. The army of demons is coming. Let's evacuate and go to the Longevity Mountain to the west of the City of Divinity. Ling Qinyan waved her hand and made up her mind after some thoughts. Luli would come back sooner or later. If he could not, it would be pointless for them to wait here. Okay. Pan Yuqin sighed. She stood up and went to deliver the order. She had been holding on to Luli's jade talisman of life. She was worried that one day the jade talisman would break. Soon, everything was arranged. Orders were passed down. The scouts began to leave. Ling Qinyan and Pan Yuqin packed up. They looked up at the sky at the same time and then left through the teleportation formation. In the valley near the Snow Moon Temple, Astro Emperor and Blood Emperor were still playing chess. Blood Emperor could not sit still any longer. He and Luli were not destined to be master and disciple, but they shared a bond. It had been a long time, and Luli had not come back. Naturally, Blood Emperor was worried. Astro Emperor. Blood Emperor threw away a chess piece and said in a fit of pique, "Go and have a look at that punk. We can't continue." "Ha ha, why should I?" Astro Emperor smiled. He waved his hand in the air and a picture appeared. In the picture, Luli was still floating in the air, safe and sound. Dozens of thunderbolts were striking at him, but he was fine. He floated in the air peacefully like a baby sleeping soundly. How Blood Emperor was stunned. He pointed at Luli but could not say a word. Chapter 1673. The demon army was unstoppable. The humans didn't organize any armies or powerful warriors to stop them. Only a few stragglers would spontaneously attack, harass, and make some pointless efforts and sacrifices. Luli, the hero of the human race and their new commander, was missing. The new list was released. Lord Xianyuan was number 1, Zhuoqilu was number 2, and Luli was number 6 for the first time. What Luli did in the City of Divinity was spread out. Luli's attack on the demon army was even more widely spread. Luli became the new leader of the human race. Many people didn't necessarily follow Luli's command, but at least Luli had become the spiritual leader of most humans. The traitor that everyone despised had become the leader of the human race. Although this was comical and laughable, it was the truth. Now, their leader was missing. The demon army was launching a massive attack, but Luli didn't do anything. Many human warriors thought Luli was planning something bigger. Now that he hadn't shown up for a long time, people began to wonder if Luli couldn't fight the 10-winged demon, or was dead. Not only the average warriors, but many supreme warriors in the divinity didn't know where Luli had gone. Ling Qinyan, Pan Yuqin, and Zhuoqilu didn't tell the news that Luli was going to take the heavenly tribulation. If the news got out, any 10-winged demon could be killed by Luli. Luo Guan and Zhuoqilu had some guesses, but they wouldn't betray Luli. After all, if Luli died, they would lose all hope. The 4 forces would be wiped out. As time went on, the demon army kept advancing. One prefecture after another fell. Another month later, more than half of the divinity had fallen. The demon army was approaching the City of Divinity. In a month at most, they would be at the city. The average disciples of the craftsman's sect had been relocated. So were the resources. Only powerful warriors were left in the city, including many from the divinity. Those powerful warriors believed that the City of Divinity was the last barrier. If the City of Divinity was taken and Luli didn't show up and couldn't defeat the demon army, the divinity would fall completely and humans would be lost forever. Luli was still in the sky. He had built more than 300 formations at his acupoint. More than 100 thunderbolts were striking at him at the same time. The scene in the sky was fascinating. Luli was floating in the void. Dragons of lightning were whooshing at him from all sides, surrounding him. However, the thunderbolts seemed to be illusionary. Not only could they not hurt Luli, they couldn't even burn his skin and hair. Luli had set up more than 300 acupuncture points. Every time the energy of thunderbolts went in, it would be absorbed by the thunder-gathering formation and then transformed into a strange kind of energy which was distributed to the thunder storage formations around his body. This energy would then seep into the walls of the acupoints, strengthening them. Luli's calculation was right. The 720 acupoints were more like formation stones for the formation in the human body. When the acupoints were strengthened, his physical body as a whole would be enhanced. How strong was his physical body now? Even Luli himself did not know. But he believed that it was at least 10 times stronger. In other words, His body must be stronger than the average supreme warriors in the divinity. The energy of thunderbolts was flowing in. The acupoints seemed to be small, but they were like small worlds, bottomless pits. With so much energy of thunderbolts entering his acupoints, they were like strands of airflow. The acupoints could not be filled up. I think I can stand tens of thousands of thunderbolts now, right? Luli stopped at this moment. He looked at the dragons of lightning coming at him from all sides. His eyes glowed. He thought for a while and moved to the side slowly. Swish, Luli moved as if he had run into a nest of snakes. The thunderbolts around him were many times more than before, and they were raging at him. Luli had been checking his body. He was relieved to make sure that all the thunderbolts could be absorbed. Whoosh! He sped up and attracted more and more thunderbolts. When he was half as fast as he usually was, he was being attacked by tens of thousands of thunderbolts. Ha ha ha, this is great. Luli laughed. He could feel the energy of thunderbolts being absorbed and his physical body improving. He laughed into the sky. For others, heaven's tribulation might be horrifying, but for Luli, it was nourishing. The thunderbolts were no longer lethal poisons, but the most nourishing elixirs in the world. Whoosh! He flew around in the sky like a dragon. Thunderbolts were roaring toward him from all sides. Soon, they caught up with him but were all absorbed by him. Mountain. Luli flew for an hour. He took out the mountain after he was sure that everything was fine. He made the mountain grow to the size of his body. He sat on the mountain with his legs crossed and let the mountain take him around. Thunderbolts had no effect on the artifact spirit in the mountain. The thunderbolts here were unique. They only attacked those who were going through heaven's tribulations. Luli let the mountain take him around and closed his eyes to make sure that everything was fine. He knew that it had been a long time and he must make haste. Otherwise, the divinity down there would become a world of demons. He continued to inscribe the arrays. After such a long time, his speed of inscribing arrays had increased. Now, he could inscribe 4 to 5 arrays in a day. He estimated that in another 3 months, he would be able to inscribe the lightning storage array in all his meridians. High up in the sky, a mountain was flying fast. On the mountain sat a warrior. Thunderbolts were roaring from all directions. The sky had turned into a prison of thunder. This prison of thunder was many times more horrifying than the prison of thunder in the purgatory of primordial chaos. If an average supreme warrior in the divinity were to see this, they would be scared out of their wits. The mountain flew fast as Luli ordered. It was just wandering around in the lightning test. Luli did not care about himself. He entered the cryptic spirit realm to focus on the formations. After flying for more than a month, the divine mountain suddenly stopped. This was because Yi-Chi, who was inside the divine mountain, sensed something strange in the distance. Someone was going through heaven's tribulations over there? Thousands of miles away, thunderbolts were wreaking havoc in the sky as well. Master, something is wrong. Yi-Ching sent a message to Luli at once. Luli opened his eyes and looked over according to what Yi-Ching said. Thunderbolts were wreaking havoc over there. Luli frowned. What a coincidence. Someone was going through heaven's tribulations? Let's leave and go to the distance. Luli decided not to go and check. What if the 10-winged demon was looking for him? He still had more than 100 acupoints to finish, and it would take him more than a month to finish. He did not want to complicate matters. What? Luli suddenly sensed something was off. The thunderbolts were being lured over. Did that mean that someone was coming over? Luli was alarmed. He took out his weapon, ready to fight. Squeak, squeak. After a while, there came a shout from the distance. Luli trembled when he heard the voice. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Whoosh, a blur flew over, as fast as a ray of red light. Luli rubbed his eyes and stared at the black dot in the distance. He was trembling because it was Little White. Squeak, squeak. Little White kept shouting. There were tears in its eyes. It dashed over in a blur and threw itself into Luli's arms. It really is Little White. Chapter 1674. How far was the land of Yuyan from here? It would take Luli at least 1 or 2 years to get here, not to mention Little White. If it were not for the fact that Luli was holding Little White in his arms, he would have thought he was dreaming. Little White had been missing for years. Not only did it appear in the divinity, but Little White was in the sky. Was Little White going through the heavens tribulation as well? But Little White was still small and it hadn't transformed yet. How could it be going through the heavens tribulation? Luli had so many questions. After a while, he asked, "Little White, how come you are here? Do you know how long I have been looking for you? Didn't I tell you not to run away from the Weidi mountain?" Squeak, squeak, Little White didn't know how to say yes. It waved its paws here and there and squeaked. Luli didn't understand. He waved his hand and said, "Calm down. I will ask you something. Nod or shake your head. Did you run away from the Weidi mountain on your own?" Little White shook its head. Luli understood at once. He asked, "You were taken away by a powerful warrior?" Little White nodded. Luli was relieved. He continued, "You were not taken away from that mountain, right? You were running around and lost your way? Then you were taken away?" Little White nodded again. Luli's questions were answered. There were illusions and formations of destruction in the mountain, but they were not destroyed. It meant that Little White had left on its own. But when it was walking in the Weidi mountain, it might have triggered the inhibition formation and was teleported away. In the end, it was taken away by a powerful warrior. "You were brought here by that powerful warrior?" Luli asked again. Little White nodded again. Pointing to the surroundings, Luli asked, "Then why are you here? Don't you know it is dangerous here?" Squeak, squeak. Little White waved its paws, pointing here and there. Luli realized he was being too hasty. He thought about it and asked, "Did you come to the heavens tribulation on your own?" Little White shook its head. Luli frowned and asked, "Did that powerful warrior bring you here?" Little White nodded. Luli kept on asking questions. After an hour, Luli finally understood the cause and effect. But he was more confused now. Whitey was brought to the divine world by an expert from the Emperor Way Mountain, but according to the result of the inquiry, Whitey was brought here by that mysterious expert, and then that expert left, leaving Whitey alone. After swallowing a lot of red stones in the Weidi mountain, Whitey's resistance to lightning was very strong. At first, it was struck half to death. However, it was gradually able to hold on. Now, it could fly at will here, and it would be fine even if tens of thousands of lightning bolts struck it. Moreover, its physical body had become extremely powerful. It had already spent several years in the lightning tribulation, and its body had been tempered to an extremely terrifying degree. Who was that expert? Why did he go to Weidi Mountain? Why did he bring Whitey to the divine world, and left it in the lightning tribulation without Whitey? Luli had solved some of his doubts, but more questions arose. Luli racked his brains, but to no avail. Xiao Bai, logically speaking, your battle prowess should be very strong. Why don't you transform? Luli asked again. Little White shook its head in confusion, indicating that it did not understand either. Luli forced a smile. If Little White could transform into a human, it would be better, and many questions could be answered. But now, it was pointless to ask any more questions, unless that powerful expert showed up. Never mind. It's good that I can come back. Luli smiled. For him, Little White was more like a naughty brother. Little White had been lost several times. Now that it was found again, Luli was happy. All right, Xiao Bai, you can lie down on this divine mountain. I won't leave you behind in the future. Luli waved his hand. The mountain grew bigger. Little White stayed nearby so that both Luli and Little White could absorb Thunderbolt. Little White was sitting next to Luli, Seeing that many thunderbolts were absorbed by Luli, Little White's eyes glowed with curiosity. Little White seemed to be wondering how Luli could absorb thunderbolts like Little White. Whoosh! Little White was overjoyed to be reunited with Luli. It scurried around nearby, attracting many thunderbolts to chase after it. Luli was amused. He stopped carving formations and played with Little White for a while. Little White, fly over there as fast as you can. Show me how fast you are. Luli waved his hand. Little White was amused. It flew toward the west in a blur. Luli controlled the mountain to go after Little White. The divine mountain's speed actually couldn't catch up with Whitey. Whitey flew for a distance before turning back. Luli nodded to himself. Little White was faster than many supreme warriors in the divinity. How much stronger was its body after cultivating in the thunderbolts? Little White, show me how strong you are. Luli took out the cold blade and released divine energy. The sword light whooshed out and landed on Little White. Luli heard a muffled sound, but Little White did not move at all. Luli was speechless. Squeak, squeak, Little White raised its head with pride, as if it was saying in a silent voice that Luli's attack was too weak. Ha ha ha! Luli laughed and released Ghost King Cut. But he only used 30% of his strength. The ray of sword light made 2 turns in midair, and landed on Little White. Little White was smashed away. Whoosh, however, even though Little White was knocked back, its fur wasn't damaged at all. It raised its head proudly and kept making noises, as if it wanted Luli to increase his attack power. Okay, Little White, watch out. Luli used Ghost King Cut again. This time, he used all his strength. The ray of sword light made a turn and landed on Little White. This time, Little White was smashed away for dozens of miles. Squeak, squeak, what happened next shocked Luli. Little White flew back quickly. Apart from some of its fur falling off, it didn't seem to be injured at all. Amazing, Luli exclaimed. Little White was an average Xian beast in the mortal world. Luli used to think that Little White was the son of the Beast King in the ice abyss of the northern desert. For a son of a Beast King to become a mythical beast, even if it had mutated, would be a miracle. But Little White had improved to such a horrifying stage in such a short time. Luli even felt that Little White was cultivating faster than he was. Is Little White not the son of a Beast King, but a strange being in heaven and earth? Luli was having doubts. He had looked into the information of the Beast King at the Ice Abyss. It was not like Little White. Luli used to think that Little White was too small and would grow up to be a Beast King. After so many years, Little White's appearance hadn't changed at all. It was still the size of a palm, like a pet raised by a lady. There was not a trace of beast might of a powerful beast. The way Little White was wagging its tail, more like a pet dog, who cares? Little White may be a beast from the realm of demons, but it is still my brother. Luli thought about it for a while. He waved at Little White and told it to go back to the mountain. Luli sat down with his legs crossed and continued to carve formations. Chapter 1675. In 2 months, Luli had finished engraving all the formations. The Storage Thunder formation was officially completed. At the moment when the inscription was completed, something interesting happened. The formation changed. The Lightning Gathering formation changed automatically. Many small patterns extended out and connected all the other lightning storage formations. The moment the formation changed, Luli was scared to death. When the formation of a relic was changed, there was a 50% chance that the relic would become useless. If the relic was destroyed, then so be it. But the embryo was Luli's body. If it were to become useless, then Luli himself would become useless. Fortunately, changing the formation was a good thing. The Lightning Gathering formation had many small patterns that connected all the other formations. That was to say, the Lightning Gathering formation and the Storage formation had become a whole. In this way, the transmission speed was fast and the lightning-gathering formation was less likely to collapse. There would be no problem of the formation failing to replenish energy. Each of the 720 acupoints was like a bottomless pit. How much energy could they absorb? Luli could not even imagine. Therefore, he didn't have to worry that there would not be enough energy to replenish the lightning-gathering formation and cause it to lose its effectiveness. Luli didn't leave at once. Instead, he flew the mountain at the top of its speed and circled around nearby, absorbing the energy of thunderbolts. Even though Luli didn't know how to use the energy of thunderbolts, he did know that the more thunderbolts he absorbed, the stronger his acupoints would be. The stronger his acupoints were, the stronger his body. The acupoints were the foundation of the formation. During this time, he could clearly feel that his body was improving rapidly. If he could stay here for hundreds or thousands of years, how strong would his body be when all the 720 acupoints were filled with thunderbolts? Not even he could imagine it. By then, he might not even be able to be killed by the 10-winged demon. Another 10 days. Luli made up his mind. He had absorbed a lot of thunderbolts. After another 10 days, his body should be able to stand the attacks of the 10-winged demon. He should go for the next heaven's tribulation or the divinity would be in danger. During the 10 days, he tried to empty his mind to calm himself down. The last heaven's tribulation was the most horrifying. He must do his best. He forgot everything, turning himself into a blank sheet of paper. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was to pass the soul tribulation and become a paragon in the God world. 10 days later, he opened his eyes and called Little White over. Little White, I'm going up to take a look. You stay here. I'll be back in half a month. Don't run around, okay? Squeak, squeak. Little White didn't want to be separated from Luli anymore. It waved its paws and shook its head. Luli patted its head with a smile and said, Listen to me. You go and do something important. You will distract me if you follow me. Even though Little White was not happy about it, but Luli's eyes were resolute. Little White could only make some sounds of bitterness. Luli left the mountain behind and told Little White to stay in the mountain. He was going to pass the heart-soul tribulation. Nothing could help him. He could only rely on himself. He would leave the divine mountain for Little White. However, it was not that he did not have a trump card. The dragon's soul could at least protect his soul from collapsing. Time to go. Luli waved his hand in a carefree manner and flew up. He sped up to the top of his speed and flew away in a blur. He was more than 10 times faster than Little White. My physical body has improved a lot. I think I can be as fast as the 10-winged demon now. Luli nodded to himself. His physical body had improved a lot in the first tribulation of wind and fire. This time, the second tribulation of lightning had transformed his physical body. His physical strength had been enhanced by leaps and bounds. The most powerful body below the third realm. I hope that one day I can have the most powerful body below the third realm. Luli thought of Lu Ling. If he could improve his physical body to the level of Emperor Z, then he would be qualified to go to Lu Ling. This time, when demons invaded the divinity, nobody from Lu Ling's family came out. Luli was sure of one thing: Lu Ling's family must be in the world above. Her family could not and would not meddle in the affairs of the lower world. After the heavens' tribulation, I will be a supreme warrior in the divinity. I should be qualified to go to the Mountain of Dragons now. Am I qualified to see my sister now? Lu Li's heart was burning with passion. Soon, he dashed out from the heavens' tribulation and appeared in the sky. A gust of cold wind calmed him down. He was about to go through the heavens' tribulation. How could he still think about Lu Ling? He had too many things to worry about. How could he survive the tribulation of soul like this? In this state, going through the tribulation of soul was tantamount to committing suicide. Should he go back? An idea came to Lu Li's mind. His physical body had improved a lot. He should be able to fight against the 10-winged demon. If he were to die in the tribulation of soul, or if his soul were to fall silent, he could fight against armies of demons. Not only was he going to die, but the God world was going to be finished as well. The divinity would be doomed as well. His mind was not stable enough. He had too many things to worry about. What? A glint of coldness rose in Lu Li's eyes. He had not even gone through the tribulation of soul and he was already scared? Was he going to give up? Had the tribulation of soul started? Go back. If he went back now, all his previous efforts would be in vain. Lu Li did not know what the consequences would be, but he was sure of one thing. He might never be qualified to be a supreme warrior in the divinity. Fear would take root and sprout. This time, he was afraid of the realm of soul, and a seed was planted in his soul. This seed would grow and sprout. The next time he went through the heavens tribulation, he would be afraid and there would be demons in his mind. In that case, no matter how long he would live, he would never be able to survive the tribulation of soul. The path of Wu Dao was to go against nature and change fate. This was a difficult and dangerous thing. One wrong move could consign one to eternal damnation. This was a difficult and bumpy path. Thousands of men and horses were crossing a single log bridge. Without the courage to press forward and the determination to face death, how could one reach the peak? There were many treasures at the peak of the mountain. But there were many venomous snakes in the mountain. Many people wanted to get the treasures. If one was afraid of the venomous snakes and dared not to go up the mountain, then how could one gain anything? No pains, no gains. No pains, no returns. This was an eternal truth, especially on the path of Wu Dao. There was no room for cowardice. Many super mighty warriors in the divinity did not dare to go through the heavens tribulation. They would be stuck at this realm for the rest of their lives, unable to enjoy the view from the high ground. The path of Wu Dao was like a pyramid. Only those with great perseverance, courage, talent, and luck could reach the peak. Any lack of these factors would limit one's achievements. Lu Li did not want to look up to those above, nor did he want others to dictate his life. Therefore, he had a strong desire to become stronger. Let's go. Chapter 1676. 3 months had passed. 2 days ago, the army of demons finally arrived at the city of divinity. If the army of demons had been on their way, they should have arrived at the city of divinity 2 months ago. However, the army of demons took a detour. They circled around the city of divinity and conquered several prefectures nearby. Then, the army of demons encircled the city of divinity from all sides. Fortify the walls and clear the fields. Emperor Yoshing's intention was clear. He must conquer the city of divinity without any slip-up. Therefore, he must take over all the nearby territories and then focus on the city of divinity. Lu Li had not shown up during this time, which made Emperor Yoshing suspicious. Emperor Yoshing had learned a lot about Lu Li through the soul searching. He knew that Lu Li had a legendary past. Emperor Yoshing once said that Lu Li was the only worthy opponent. Therefore, Emperor Yoshing paid special attention to Lu Li. He did not want to give Lu Li any more chances. Emperor Yoshing must conquer the city of divinity. As long as the city of divinity was under control, there would be no more obstacles in conquering the divinity. Emperor Yoshing planned to advance step by step. He would be fine even if he had to spend decades or hundreds of years. For him, hundreds of years were just a snap of fingers. He would not allow the army of demons to repeat the mistakes of 500,000 years ago. He would take over the divinity completely, expand the territory, and create a new era for the demons. He had a long life. If he could conquer the divinity, he could spend 10,000 years, let alone a few years. The city of divinity was located on a towering mountain. On the mountainside there were 8 satellite cities. Usually, many warriors and civilians lived in the satellite cities. But now, the cities were empty. All the satellite cities were occupied by demons. Not only in the city, but also in the wilderness at the foot of the mountain were swarmed with demons and demon slaves. There was no end to them. The energy of demons spread out, covering up the sun and the sky. The sky nearby was darkened as if the dark clouds before a storm were covering up the sky. At the peak of the mountain, a blue shield covered up a magnificent city. Many warriors were standing on the city wall. Those warriors looked down at the foot of the mountain and the swarms of demons and demon slaves at the end of the wilderness. Their faces were solemn and their morale was low. The demons had been besieging the city for 4 days, but the demons had not attacked the city. Not attacking the city was even more depressing and terrifying than attacking the city. It wasn't just the soldiers, even the experts in the city were shaken. They felt very uneasy, and many people even had thoughts of leaving. Everyone knew that if Divine Artisan City was breached, the divine realm might be finished. Their foundation was ruined, and sooner or later they would all die. But dying later was better than dying now. There was only hope if he was alive, wasn't there? If not for the fact that Luo Guan, Zhuoqiu Lu, and the others were guarding the Divine Craftsman City, if not for the fact that Luo Guan said that the city could not be broken through, many experts in the city would have teleported away long ago. There was another reason why this group of people hadn't left. Luo Guan said that Lu Li was planning a big plan. The moment Lu Li appeared, he would be able to completely defeat the demon army. Although many people didn't believe it, Lu Li had always been creating miracles. Perhaps he would be able to do it again this time. Many people were hoping that Lu Li would appear. 5 days, 6 days, 8 days. Finally, the demon army began to attack. Inside the citadel and in the base of the demon, countless demons flew up, covering the sky and covering the earth. However, they didn't attack the Divine Craftsman City. Countless demon slaves began to rush up the mountain. Emperor Yoshing sent the demon slaves to the front to test the waters. Emperor Yoshing knew very well that the mountain was full of inhibition formations. Naturally, he would not send the demon slaves to their death. Boom, boom, boom. As expected, as soon as the demon slaves dashed into the mountain glowed. Thunder rumbled in the sky. Bolts of lightning as thick as an arm struck down. The demon slaves that were rushing up the mountain were smashed into pieces. Whoosh, 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 many powerful warriors flew out from the mountain and stood on the city wall, observing the situation down below, observing the changes of the situation. They were ready to fight to the death or run away. Flatten this mountain for me. A shout came from the base of the demon. Demons in the sky began to gather their demonic energy and released long-range attacks. The sky was filled with blasts and smashed into the mountain. The inhibition formations down below glowed brightly and trembled. Millions of demons attacked at the same time. The entire mountain was shaking. The noise was deafening. Attacks of all kinds were made of demonic energy. It was a horrifying sight. Many warriors were scared pale. They are strong. The powerful warriors were not sure what they were focusing on. They could feel the inhibition formations down below. It had been the time for one incense stick to burn, but the inhibition formations were still standing. Their eyes glowed. The Divine Craftsman City was known as the city where the sun never set. It was said that the inhibition formations in the city had never been broken. If the demon army could not break the inhibition formations, then it would be much more difficult to conquer the divinity. The humans were at the back and could take a shortcut at any time. This was the last barrier of the divinity. The divinity would not perish until it was broken. Boom, 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 the millions of demons had been attacking for 2 hours. None of the inhibition formations in the mountain were broken. Great Emperor Yoshing and the other demons could not sit still anymore. He ordered 2 10-winged demons and all 8-winged demons to join the attack. With so many powerful demons attacking, the inhibition formations in the mountain could not withstand it anymore. They were being destroyed bit by bit. However, many of the inhibition formations were still very strong. They could withstand the attacks of the 10-winged demons. Half a day, 1 day, 3 days. The inhibition formations in the mountain were finally broken bit by bit. After 3 days, apart from the inside and outside of the city, there were no more inhibition formations in the mountain. Much of the mountain had been blown up. Continue to attack and shatter this mountain. Can this divine artisan city still float in the air? A 10-winged demon shouted. The demons continued to attack. The mountain was protected by inhibition formations. However, under the continuous attacks of so many powerful demons, the inhibition formations kept being broken and the mountain was exploding bit by bit. The expressions of the powerful warriors and soldiers in the city changed. The divine craftsman city was at the top of the mountain. If the mountain was hollowed out, the divine craftsman city would become rootless duckweed. Many people knew a little about setting up formations. A great formation had to have an array foundation, and the array stones had to have a place to be placed. The foundation of the divine craftsman city was in this mountain. If the mountain was destroyed, would the divine craftsman city's inhibition formations still be useful? However, Luo Guan sat in the city and did not move. It was not easy for the group of powerful martial artists to leave. They could only continue to wait. Another 3 days later, the mountain below the divine craftsman city was all blown up. What everyone was worried about did not happen. The divine craftsman city's barrier was still shining brightly, and the divine craftsman city did not collapse. The 2 10-winged demons' faces were filled with astonishment. The rest of the demons were stunned. Because the mountain had been blown up, the divine craftsman city was really floating in midair. Not only did it not collapse, but it also felt like there was no problem. This is not an ordinary city. Great Emperor Yoshing flew out from the evil demon camp. His expression became serious. He waved his hand and said, "Continue attacking. Although it seems like you will not be able to break it, but we still have to try." Kiki. In one of the palaces of the divine craftsman city, Luo Guan was leisurely drinking tea. He looked at the puzzled formidable martial artists in the palace hall and explained, "The divine craftsman city does not have an array foundation at all. This is not a city but a powerful defensive type. Primordial spirit, heavenly treasure. Do you think that without the battle strength of a 3-tribulation heaven god, ordinary formidable martial artists would be able to destroy a primordial spirit heavenly treasure? Chapter 1677. While they were fighting, Luli had entered the 3rd level of the heavens tribulation, the tribulation of soul. There was a layer of pink fog in the sky. Luli had been in there for several days. According to the book, as long as he could get through the pink fog, he would be considered to have passed the heavens tribulation. Not long after Luli came in, he stopped moving. It was not that he didn't want to move, but he couldn't control his body. He felt his soul and body were separated. That was right. He felt his soul was floating away from his body, floating in the pink fog. He could even see his body. His soul had left his body. This was not psychic power, but the feeling that his soul was really separated. He didn't panic. The book mentioned that this was the tribulation of soul. Nobody could help him. He had to fly his soul back to his body and regain control of his body. If he could not fly back to his body, then his soul would be in the pink fog forever until it died. Luli wanted to fly his soul back. He could see his body was not far away, but he could not control his soul. His soul was still floating away from his body. He didn't know what to do. He could only look at the fog around him and his soul leaving his body. He was not in a hurry. The tribulation of soul was a test of temperament. If one panicked at every situation, then he would not be able to pass the tribulation of soul. Luli calmed himself down and tried to sense the situation around him, the pink fog. There must be something special about the fog, or else his soul wouldn't have left his body. He tried for several days, but to no avail. He didn't find anything wrong with the pink fog. His soul had drifted far away. If he went on like this, he would be lost and never be able to go back. Could it be an illusion? Luli had been thinking about this. Wasn't the tribulation of soul supposed to test the mind? If that was the case, then everything he saw was an illusion, an illusion. As long as he could get rid of the illusion, he could find himself and pass the tribulation of soul. However, after days of observation, Luli realized that this was not an illusion. His soul had really been separated from his body. Why would he make such a judgment? He could sense that the spiritual connection between him, the wicked bead and blood fairy, was weakening. It meant that he was getting further away from the wicked bead, the blood vine, and his physical body. Therefore, if he wanted to fly back and return his soul to his body, he would have to control his soul to fly back. How do I control my soul? Luli really didn't know. He could only concentrate and use his mind to see if he could move his soul. Unfortunately, after several days, nothing happened. For the first time, he felt a deep sense of helplessness. He had powerful combat strength, but he couldn't control his soul movement. His physical body was very strong, but now he couldn't control it to move. No, Luli suddenly had an idea. He could not control the movement of his soul, but that didn't mean he could not control his body. Didn't the god corpses not have souls? He could easily be controlled by Blood Fairy, and he could let the god corpses fly over with his physical body. Blood Fairy, tell the Immortal's corpse to fly my body to the northwest. He had a psychic connection with Blood Fairy, so they could communicate directly. The wicked bead in the hand of Luli's physical body glowed. The Immortal's body came out and grabbed Luli's body and flew over. The Immortal's body had no soul, while Blood Fairy was a spiritual being. She was hiding in the wicked bead, and the trials of mind and soul seemed to have no effect on her. Luli's physical body flew over. Soon, Luli's soul saw his physical body coming. His soul still could not move. Luli had the Immortal's body bring his physical body closer to his soul. When he was close, he suddenly felt his soul was strongly attracted by his physical body. However, the pink smoke also had a faint suction force. The two forces were fighting for his soul and tearing it apart. Luli felt a tearing pain in his soul. It was the feeling that his soul was really being torn apart. The soul was a fragile thing. If it was torn apart like this and something went wrong, Luli could become an idiot or even have a drastic change in personality. Buzzing, to Luli's delight, the dragon's soul finally moved and began to protect its master. The silver dragon mark outside the sword-shaped soul glowed. Then, the dragon's soul whooshed out and entangled Luli's soul. A strange force entered and the pain in his soul was gone. Then, the dragon's soul entered Luli's soul. Nice. Luli opened his eyes all of a sudden. He was overjoyed. It felt so good to have control over his body again. Without a physical body, his soul was like a rootless duckweed. The body was the root, the soul was the origin, and the divine energy was the source. None of the three could be missing. If any one of them went wrong, the warrior would become a cripple or a dead man. Just now, Luli had a new lease on life. He was so excited that he almost burst into tears of joy. Phew, phew. He used psychic power to check the dragon's soul and exclaimed again. How many times had the dragon's soul saved his life? In other words, Lu Ling had saved him many times. The dragon's soul should have belonged to her. Sister, Luli became confused at the thought of Lu Ling. In a trance, he saw a young girl cutting her own flesh in the mountains in the northern desert of the Heaven Reverse universe. She was smiling and Di Hu and the others were trembling. Then, the scene changed to the Wuling County. Lu Ling was enveloped in flames. There was no pain on her face. Instead, she looked relieved and relieved. Her body was burning bit by bit. The scenes changed again and again. Clouds, Plains, Inferno, Mystic Armor City. Before he knew it, Lu Li had burst into tears. He realized that in the depth of his soul, the person he loved the most was still Lu Ling. At the moment, he missed Lu Ling very much. He was desperate to find her and see her. "Sister, where are you?" At this moment, Lu Li felt he had become a child. He felt he was back at the Dilong tribe. He was running around in the back mountain, looking for her and shouting, "Sister, where are you?" Lu Li rushed over and shouted hysterically. His eyes were filled with fear and panic. He was like a lonely child. His eyes also became confused, and he ran around like a madman, shouting loudly, "Charge, charge, charge!" All of a sudden, Lu Li took out his cold sword and hacked at the sky. He used Ghost King Cut, Slayer's Move, Space Twist, and even the Worms of the Void. He used all his means of attack. He was filled with killing intent. He kept shouting, "I will kill you. I will kill all of you who dare to hurt my sister. All of you." The most horrifying part of the soul tribulation had come. It struck the most vulnerable part of Lu Li's mind. Chapter 1678. He and Lu Ling had depended on each other since they were kids. She was his mother, his sister, and a close friend. Lu Ling had given him so much and suffered so much for him. Yet, Lu Li didn't give her much in return. Lu Li felt guilty about Lu Ling the most. Lu Ling was his sore spot and the softest spot in his heart. Now, the tribulation of mind had hit the spot directly, tearing it open and revealing the most painful scar in his heart. Lu Li had a soul protection treasure, the dragon soul, which had saved his life many times. It could protect him from all kinds of soul attacks so far. That being said, the dragon soul could only protect him from external soul attacks, not internal ones. Last time, for example, the demonic chi affected Lu Li's soul and triggered his negative emotions, making him evil, violent and cruel. This time, the tribulation of mind was the same. The tribulation of mind was to stimulate some emotions in the heart and cause problems in the soul of the warrior instead of using soul attacks to attack the soul of the warrior. The tribulation of mind was a test of the warrior's heart, willpower and temperament. This kind of invisible attack was the most powerful. Lu Li didn't even have time to prepare before the tribulation of mind came. He was hit in an instant. External enemies were easy to defend against, but internal enemies were the most difficult. That was the principle of the tribulation of mind. Of course, if the tribulation of mind could be protected by a soul protection artifact, then the heaven's tribulation would be much easier. Lu Li's mind was not normal at the moment. His entire soul was occupied by Lu Ling. In his mind, there were images of Lu Ling suffering and people trying to hurt her. These images were not created out of thin air. They were not created by the tribulation of mind. They were in Lu Li's mind. These were the things that Lu Li was most afraid of and worried about. They had been lurking in the depth of his heart. What he was most afraid of was the tribulation of mind. The tribulation of mind would magnify it so that the warrior's emotions would be stirred up. The warrior would lose his temper and lose his mind completely. This was the most horrifying thing about the tribulation of mind. One could imagine a person with a hidden wound that he was most unwilling to touch. The tribulation of mind could find this wound easily and tear it open bit by bit. It could also sprinkle salt on it. How could an average man stand it? Kill, kill, kill. Lu Li wielded his cold sword and released all kinds of horrifying attacks. He ran with all his might, shouting and chasing after Lu Li. He saw Lu Ling being taken away, chained up and dragged on the ground. She was covered in blood, and she kept asking him to save her. Under normal circumstances, Luli would be able to tell that this was an illusion, an illusion. He would calm down soon and force himself not to follow the illusion. However, Luli had lost his mind. He could not tell if it was an illusion or reality. Step by step, the tribulation of mind had messed up Luli's mind and made him lose control. The negative emotions such as bloodthirst, violence, and evilness that were lurking in the depth of his soul were stirred up. There were a lot of negative emotions in Luli's mind, but he managed to suppress them. When he was invaded by the demonic aura, he almost went berserk, but he suppressed it in the end. Just because it was suppressed didn't mean it was gone. At this moment, these negative emotions were stimulated and completely occupied Luli's soul. Luli was in a very dangerous situation. If he couldn't regain consciousness, the negative emotions would take over his soul. He would become a lunatic, chasing, hacking, and screaming. In the end, he would die in the tribulation of mind and soul. Imperceptibly, the tribulation of mind could turn a person into a lunatic. This was the most horrifying thing about the tribulation of mind. Nobody was a saint and nobody's mind was flawless. People would definitely make 1 or 2 mistakes in their lives. They would definitely make some wrong decisions, or miss some opportunities, or have some regrets, and so on. Whatever the case, as long as one's mind was not flawless, the tribulation of mind would seize the weakness in one's mind and attack. The weakness would be magnified and eventually drive one mad, deranged, and insane. This was why many super mighty warriors in the divinity didn't dare to go through the tribulation of mind and soul. They had done too many wrong things and committed too many sins. Usually, they wouldn't think much of it. But once the tribulation of mind came, they might be doomed eternally. Charge, charge, charge. It had been 3 days and Luli was still yelling, chasing after him and releasing all kinds of attacks. His eyes were glowing red and it was getting redder. If this went on, when his soul was completely occupied by the negative emotions, he would be doomed eternally. He would stay in the tribulation of mind and soul forever. Luli didn't realize it himself. His consciousness was being suppressed. The negative emotions were dominating his soul. He didn't even know what he was doing. How could he stop it? While Luli was going berserk, the demons outside the city were going berserk as well. The demons had been attacking the city for several days. Millions of demons, 2 10-winged demons and many 8-winged demons were attacking together. Yet, the city was as impenetrable as a turtle's shell. The shield didn't even tremble a bit. Under such powerful attacks, a regular shield would have some problems. At the very least, the color would dim a bit. However, this shield didn't react at all, which made many demons furious and frustrated. Emperor Yoshing didn't take any action, nor did he say anything. He sat in silence in the demon camp. He didn't give any orders. The other demons didn't dare to stop. They kept on attacking. Whoosh, a 10-winged demon flew down after another half a day. He went into the tent and said, "Your Majesty, the shield is not reacting at all. How come it is so strong? This is a primordial spirit heavenly treasure, and a rather powerful one at that. It should have been bestowed by a force of the second heaven." Emperor Yoshing explained expressionlessly. "The chaos treasure?" The 10-winged demon was taken aback. "How can we crack such a powerful chaos treasure with our abilities? How about we stop attacking and let them hole up in the city? We can talk about it after we conquer other places in the divinity. If we don't conquer this place, they can sneak up on us at any time." Emperor Yoshing shook his head. "Don't worry. It is true that we cannot crack the chaos treasure. We cannot go in and kill them, but I have a way to make them come out on their own." "What?" The 10-winged demon was overjoyed. He rolled his eyes and asked, "Your Majesty, are you going to use the formation of celestial beings?" "Yes." Emperor Yoshing nodded. "We will set up a formation of celestial beings under the city. The entire city will be enveloped in the formation. We will use the demon's original aura to affect everyone's temperament and make them go berserk. There are so many formidable martial artists inside. Luo Guan and Zhua Qilu won't be able to suppress them. They will definitely start fighting among themselves. They will open the shield themselves and come out to die. Good. The 10-winged demon laughed. If we can demonize the formidable martial artists inside, including Luo Guan, this chaos treasure will become the holy city of our demon world. Chapter 1679. The demons kept on attacking. Emperor Yoshing began to build the formation secretly. The formation in the realm of demons was special. It covered an area with a radius of tens of thousands of miles. Emperor Yoshing spent half a month to finish it. When the formation was activated, nothing unusual happened except that the demonic energy down there was more intense. The area was filled with dark fog and the demonic energy was more intense. The people in the city could not feel it directly. This demonic aura became even more penetrative within the Godfiend formation, and it began to affect the people inside. In the past, Lord Ji and the others had died in this array. Within this array, a martial artist's combat strength would be suppressed. The demonic aura's penetrative power would become extremely terrifying, silently causing martial artists to fall for it. The City of Divinity was a treasure of primordial spirit. It was strong in defense, but the demonic energy would seep into the formation. Once there was demonic energy in the city, it would affect the people inside. Even if they were not demonized, their negative emotions would be stimulated. If there was an internal strife, the City of Divinity would collapse on its own. The people inside were not aware of it. Instead, they were at ease. The fact that the City of Divinity was a treasure of primordial spirit was spread out. Although the low-ranking soldiers did not know much about the Grand Spirit Heavenly Treasure, the experts had heard of it. The treasure of primordial spirit was indestructible. Not even Lord Ji could destroy it. The City of Divinity was the bait and Lu Li was planning something big. The news spread out. After witnessing the defensive power of the City of Divinity, everyone was confident. They were waiting for Lu Li to make a move. Only Zhua Qilu and Luo Guan knew that they were struggling at death's door. It had been a long time since Lu Li came back. He must have failed the heavenly tribulation. Lu Li was so young and he was so unstable. There was a 90% chance that he would fail. But what could the two of them do? If they didn't lie, the city would have been in chaos. If they could not keep the powerful warriors in the city, the demon army might abandon the City of Divinity and the divinity would fall. The two of them were stalling for time, hoping for a miracle. They hoped that Lord Xianyuan would come down, that the forces behind them would help, and that Lu Li could come back from the heavenly tribulation. Can you come back? In the Longevity Mountain to the west of the Divine Craftsman City, Pan Yuqin looked at Ling Qinyan in a daze. It had been a long time. Though Lu Li's jade talisman of life was still intact, Pan Yuqin had lost all hope. Lu Li's death represented not only the loss of a confidant, but also the destruction of the divinity. That was why Pan Yuqin was so disappointed and heartbroken. Maybe not. Ling Qinyan lay on the rattan chair and curled up lazily, just like the little spirit beast in her arms. Although she still looked extremely alluring, she seemed to have lost some of her luster and was no longer as dazzling as before. Ling Qinyan paused for a bit, looked into the sky and said with a smile, "Lu Li can create miracles. If he can come back, it will be a miracle." Miracle? Pan Yuqin revealed a bitter smile. By saying so, Ling Qinyan was convinced that Lu Li could not come back. That being said, she still had some hope. Lu Li was a man who could create miracles all the time. Time flew by as the demons attacked and Pan Yuqin sighed. Soon, 10 days had passed. Finally, something happened at the Divine Craftsman City. Demonic energy had infiltrated. It was the energy of the origin of demons. With the help of the demon god Array, the city began to be filled with a faint demonic aura. Moreover, these demonic auras could not be sensed, but they were imperceptibly affecting the people in the city. The first to be affected were the warriors. There were hundreds of thousands of warriors in the city. In the middle of the night, there was a sudden howl. There was a shrill howl in the barrack. Many warriors who were sound asleep suddenly dashed out and began to kill each other. The howl spread out in an instant. All the warriors in the barracks began to attack each other. The West District was leveled to the ground in an instant. By the time Zhuqiu Lu and Luo Guan realized what was happening, more than half of the hundreds of thousands of warriors had been killed or wounded. The rest were delirious and their eyes were bloodshot. If it were not for the fact that they used force field, they would not have been able to hold them back. After taking some elixirs, the rest of the warriors calmed down. Many hugged their heads and cried bitterly. They were filled with regret. Many of them even hacked their own brothers to death. The chaos was suppressed. The barracks were separated. Thousands of warriors lived together. Zhuqiu Lu and Luo Guan thought that the warriors were under too much pressure. Therefore, they did not take it to heart. Then, something happened one after another that attracted the attention of Zhuqiu Lu and Luo Guan. 3 days later, several super mighty warriors of the divinity started to fight over some trivial matters. They were from the Hall of Life and Death and the Spacetime Mansion. After a messy fight, they were suppressed in the end. However, more than a dozen super mighty warriors of the divinity from both sides died. Later on, a few more things happened. For example, a supreme warrior of the divinity was angered by a warrior. He killed thousands of warriors at once. For example, a supreme warrior of the divinity from the Hall of Life and Death killed several super mighty warriors of the Spacetime Mansion because of the conflict between the Hall of Life and Death and the Spacetime Mansion. When this supreme warrior of the divinity took action, everyone felt something was wrong. The demon army was outside. The enemy was right in front of them. The human race was actually in chaos? What's more, there were problems one after another. If there was nothing wrong, even a 3-year-old would not believe it. The main reason was Luo Guan, Zhuqiu Lu, and the others felt something was wrong. When this supreme warrior of the divinity world attacked, they all wanted to kill him. They almost joined forces to kill him. They were leaders of the human race. They knew very well that the human race was facing a great enemy. They must not kill each other. How could they have such thoughts now? They were all people who had survived the heavenly tribulation. They were very calm. They would not change their principles because of some small things. Now they almost changed. This meant that their temperaments had been affected. They had been affected by external things. There's the smell of the demon aura. Luo Guan sensed carefully. Suddenly, she exclaimed. For the first time, panic appeared in her eyes. The Divine Artisan's city was her and the Divine Artisan's sex amulet. Now, this amulet had been broken? How could she not panic? There is indeed the aura of the demon. Zhuqiu Lu also sensed the problem. The group of supreme warriors of the divinity world and the divinity world were all panicking. If they continued to stay here, they would either kill each other or be demonized and become demon slaves. Let's retreat, sect master. Zhuqiu Lu sighed. She said this on behalf of the other experts. Luo Guan thought for a moment. Then, she waved her hand weakly. Retreat. We don't want this divine artisan's city anymore. Zhuqiu Lu quickly went to make arrangements. This was the teleportation altar of the time-space mansion. Luo Guan sat alone in the main hall as if she had lost her soul. After losing the divine artisan's city, the divine artisan's sect had not only lost their amulet, but the divinity world had also lost its last barrier. Not good. A moment later, Luo Huang suddenly ran into the room in a panic. Her eyes were filled with fear and her lips trembled as she said, Sect Mistress, the spatial zone nearby has been sealed. The Space-Time Palace's teleportation altar has lost its effect. Chapter 1680. There were dozens of supreme warriors, more than 3,000 super mighty warriors, tens of thousands of mighty warriors and hundreds of thousands of warriors in the divinity. This was not the total number of powerful warriors and armies in the divinity, but at least 70% of the divinity were powerful warriors. Luo Guan told a big lie, saying that they were the bait and Luli was planning something big outside. The powerful warriors didn't know if Luli was doing anything, but at least they really were the bait. Moreover, it was the kind that could be eaten at any time. Without waiting for the demons to attack, it wouldn't take long for the people in the city to kill each other. Zhuoqiulu tried many ways. She activated several teleportation altars and used special formation stones. However, teleportation was impossible. The space was sealed. This was a prison. How could they be teleported away? There was only one way to teleport, which was to open the shield of the city. Several powerful warriors would shake off the space seal and teleport people through the teleportation altars. Then, the teleportation altar would teleport them instantly. This way, some people might be able to escape. However, the number of people teleported through the teleportation altars was limited. As soon as the shield was opened, the demon army would rush in. Clearly, there was a formation nearby. Everyone's combat abilities would be suppressed. When the 3 ten-winged demons made a move, apart from those who could escape, the others would die. Sacrifice for the greater good. Who would be so kind? Besides, so what if some people escape? What could the rest do when most of the powerful warriors died? Zhuoqiulu and Luo Guan didn't dare to mention this. At this moment, people's temperament had been affected. If they mentioned this, they would be suspicious and more likely to have internal strife. Let's die together. Luo Guan and Zhuoqiulu had the same idea. If they couldn't suppress the demons anymore, then they would open the shield and go out to fight to the death. The divinity was going to be destroyed. There was no point in living. If the divinity could be saved, they would leave their names in history. Luo Guan told another lie. She told everyone to hold on and not to panic. She had received a message. Luli was almost done and might take action soon. By then, they could work together and support each other from inside and outside to defeat the demon army. Not many people believed this lie, but what could they do at this moment? What else could they do apart from pinning their hopes on Luli? Zhuoqiulu and Luo Guan had sent out all the Immortal World's Supremes to monitor and suppress all the soldiers and experts at all times, to prevent people from losing control and starting to kill each other. Because the Immortal World's Supremes were keeping watch, and Luo Guan and the others were constantly monitoring the situation, the city had temporarily calmed down. However, everyone was very clear that the peace was only temporary. If the situation did not reverse in a month or two, there would not be many people left in the city, and they would all kill each other. Luli, Luli, are you dead or alive? Steward Luo stood in the backyard and sighed. She was laughing at herself. Luli was once the sworn enemy of the craftsman's sect. Now, she was counting on Luli to come and save them. You must live, you must live. Luo Huang stood behind Luo Guan and looked up into the void. Using a voice that only she could hear, she muttered, "As long as you can live, as long as you can save the immortal world. Even if I have to make Luo Huang a slave or a concubine, I will have no regrets." Luli was still alive, but he was in a worse state than a dead man. He was still in the tribulation of mind and soul, running around with the saber in his hand and attacking constantly. His eyes had turned blood-red, frighteningly red. Veins were popping out on his face. His hair had grown out and was disheveled. His face was ferocious. He kept growling like a beast, like a ferocious ghost. His soul was occupied by negative emotions. He had lost all consciousness. His physical strength, divine energy, and spiritual energy were consumed. Even he was slowed down. If this went on, he would die. Without external help, it would be hard for him to wake up. His mind was too fragile. He was not ready for the tribulation of heaven. If he forced himself to go through the tribulation of heaven, his fate had been sealed. As a matter of fact, there were external forces that wanted to help him, such as Blood Fairy. Blood Fairy knew that Lu Li's situation was serious. She kept trying to wake him up, but to no avail. Her voice could not wake him up one bit. Blood Fairy was anxious, but she did not know what to do. She could only feel that Lu Li's soul was becoming more and more chaotic and violent. Buzzing, all of a sudden, Blood Fairy flew the immortal's body out from the wicked bead. As soon as the immortal's body flew out, he was smashed away by Lu Li's saber. Many formations in the immortal's body were damaged. Whoosh! Blood Fairy flew the immortal's body down quickly, leaving Lu Li behind. Though some of the formations in the immortal's body were damaged, the immortal's body was still moving fast. Blood Fairy flew the immortal's body out of the tribulation of mind and toward the thunderbolt. Blood Fairy was taking a risk. She was a soul hiding in the immortal's body. The immortal's body would not be harmed by the thunderbolts, but the immortal's body could be killed by the thunderbolts. Swish, swish, as she expected, the immortal's body had gone down. Many thunderbolts swept over. Many formations in the immortal's body were not destroyed. They absorbed the thunderbolts. Blood Fairy dashed into the core formation of the immortal's body at once. The thunderbolts could not enter. Blood Fairy was relieved. She flew the immortal's body down and searched around. Squeak, squeak, from the distance came a shout. Little White flew over on the mountain. Little White knew the immortal's body and thought it was Lu Li. Blood Fairy could not speak or send a message to Little White. She could only control the immortal's body to make gestures. Little White blinked, not fully understanding. Whoosh! Blood Fairy flew up into the sky. Whitey immediately understood and followed her. Yacha was ordered to follow Little White. Therefore, Yacha went up as well. Soon, they were out of the thunderbolt. The immortal's body brought Little White into the tribulation of mind and soul. It was risky for the immortal's body to do so. Little White was a living creature with a soul. If Little White were to be attacked by the tribulation of mind and soul, Little White might lose its life. Squeak, squeak, Little White followed the immortal's body. Nothing happened to Little White after it entered the tribulation of mind and soul. Blood Fairy sped up and dashed toward Lu Li with Little White. Blood Fairy did not know how to save Lu Li. She only knew that she was out of options. Therefore, she simply wanted to bring Little White up and see if Little White could find a way. Charge, charge, charge. From the distance came some beast-like roars. Little White's hair stood on end as soon as it heard the roars. Little White dashed over in a blur. What? Lu Li sensed the fluctuation in space and sensed the presence of living beings. Without any hesitation, Lu Li turned around with the silver-edged saber in his hand. He was about to release the Slayer's move. His mind was occupied by violent negative emotions. He really wanted to tear apart all the living beings around him. Little White was sending food to the pot, taking the initiative to let him vent. Squeak, 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 Little White screamed anxiously and dashed over. Lu Li hacked at Little White. With a flash of blood-red light, Little White was smashed away. Blood spilled everywhere. Squeak, squeak, soon, Little White ran back, screaming. Its white fur was dyed red with blood. Its little eyes were filled with disbelief. It couldn't believe that Lu Li would attack it. Swish! Without any hesitation, Lu Li swung his saber and hacked down. A ray of blood-red sword light whooshed by. Once again, Little White was smashed away. This time it was worse. One of its legs was cut off. The Slayer's move was so destructive that not even Little White could stand it. Squeak, squeak. After a moment, Little White came back. There was no more surprise in its eyes. Instead, there was only sadness and pain. Its blood-stained tail was shaking. Little White could not stop sobbing, like a child abandoned by its father. "Go to hell!" Luli dashed over, roaring. The silver-edged saber glowed coldly, glaring in Little White's pearl-like eyes. Squeak, squeak. Chapter 1681. All of a sudden, the saber stopped. The frosty-edged saber stopped more than 1,000 feet above Little White. Luli's body trembled violently. He was struggling. His facial muscles twisted. He raised his head and screamed into the sky. Luli's eyes were red, his hair was disheveled, and veins were popping out on his face. The murderous intent around him made him look like a demon. If it was an ordinary deity, they would have been paralyzed with fear. Squeak, squeak, but Little White was not afraid at all. To Little White, Luli was its closest family. Even though Luli had attacked it and cut off one of its legs, Little White would not leave without Luli. It kept shouting, hoping that Luli could wake up and hold it in his arms. Luli kept shouting into the sky. He was like a beast chained up. His hands and body were trembling violently. The frosty-edged saber was raised and put down again and again. Clearly, Little White had touched Luli's mind. Two thoughts were alternating in his mind, fighting for dominance in his soul. Luli's violent spirit was so strong that Little White didn't dare to get closer. It just kept shouting. Little White's broken leg and wounds were still bleeding, but it didn't seem to notice. It stared at Luli and bellowed. However, Little White didn't emit any beast might. Even though it was roaring as loudly as it could, it was more like a puppy whimpering and telling its grievances. Luli kept on bellowing. Time moved on. After the time for one incense stick to burn, the murderous intent was dying down and the redness in his eyes was fading away. He had raised his saber many times, but now, he put it down completely. Finally, Luli stopped roaring. He closed his eyes and squatted on the ground with his back hunched. He was breathing heavily like a cow. Squeak, squeak, Little White squeaked and moved closer. Luli didn't look up or open his eyes. He just waved his hand and said, "Little White, don't move. Heal yourself first. Listen to me." Squeak, squeak. Hearing Luli's words, Little White shouted with joy. Little White's intelligence was very high. It knew very well that something had happened to Luli just now. Now that it heard Luli's words, it meant that Luli had changed back to the master that it was familiar with. Luli squatted there without moving. The blue veins on his face were still there, and the redness in his eyes was still there. He had expended a lot of stamina, divine power, and mental energy in this period of time. He was exceptionally weak right now. Even so, Luli was still very excited because he had woken up. He was alive again. In fact, he had been vaguely aware of his situation for some time. However, his clear consciousness was completely suppressed. Not to mention controlling his soul, he couldn't even move. He was completely suppressed by the negative emotions. He had put in a lot of effort, but after such a long time, he was in despair. He felt that his soul was going to be completely silent soon. He did not expect that Blood Fairy would suddenly call Whitey up. Whitey was not affected by the soul tribulation. Little White had touched Luli's heart, just like the kid on the small island in the Sea of Demons. It had successfully opened up a gap in his soul. Luli's conscious mind entered the crack and tore it open. Eventually, he was completely awake and he suppressed the negative emotions. He had come back to life. If it were not for Little White, his soul would have fallen into silence. The joy of surviving a disaster had taken over his soul, but he did not let his guard down. He steadied himself first and told Little White to stay away. He rested for the time for one incense stick to burn before he sat in the air with his legs crossed. He took some pellets and soul-nurturing pellets and began to sort out his soul. He drove away the remaining negative emotions in his soul and stabilized his mind. 2 hours, 4 hours, 10 hours. Little White's wounds were healing. But without the pellets, Little White could not regrow its legs. Finally, Luli opened his eyes. He flew to Little White at once and held it in his arms. He said with guilt, "Little White, I am sorry. I was in a delirious state just now. I hurt you by mistake. Take this pellet. Your legs will grow back soon." Luli took out the pellet and fed it to Little White. Little White whimpered and then fell asleep in Luli's arms. Luli looked at the immortal's body not far away and said, "Thank you, Blood Fairy. It is my pleasure." "Master, it is good that you can recover," Blood Fairy replied. Then, she flew the immortal's body over. Luli put the immortal's body and Little White into the wicked bead. He looked up, full of confidence. After this trial of mind, he felt his soul was sublimated again. This time, if he had to go through another trial of mind, he was sure that he could stay calm. He did not take any more rest. He flew up quickly. According to the book, when one passed the tribulation of soul and tribulation of mind, he would be considered to have passed the heavens' tribulation. Whoosh! Soon, Luli flew out from the pink smoke. He saw a layer of golden cloud above him. His eyes glowed. The book was clear. Seeing the golden cloud meant that the heavens' tribulation had been passed. "Come on," Luli stood in the air, staring at the golden cloud, waiting for the gift from heaven and earth. After passing the heavens' tribulation, the laws in heaven and earth would recognize him. He would be granted some essence in heaven and earth so that he could improve in all aspects. Buzzing. The golden haze moved and then the middle of the haze dispersed. A ray of golden glare shone down and enveloped Luli. Luli closed his eyes naturally and relaxed to the extreme. He felt like he was in a hot spring in winter or in his mother's arms when he was a child. It was a comfortable feeling. Every pore on his body was expanding. He felt comfortable from head to toe. Luli sensed strands of golden energy seeping into his body and soul. His physical body was improving and so was his soul. The gift from heaven and earth. The purest strength, the purest energy. It was a wonderful feeling, so wonderful that it was intoxicating and he did not want to wake up. Luli squinted. He felt his physical body, soul and divine energy were all improving. He hoped that time would stop at this moment and the golden energy would not stop. Such a pity. Dreams were beautiful but reality was cruel. In the time for one incense stick to burn, the golden cloud began to move and then the golden glare disappeared. Phew, reluctantly, Luli opened his eyes and looked up. Then he closed his eyes to sense again. After a moment, he nodded. It was only the time for one incense stick to burn but his physical body, divine energy and soul had been improved. Especially his physical body. He did not even know how strong he was now. How long have I been in the heavens' tribulation? Luli blinked in confusion. After a moment of absent-mindedness, he flew down quickly. Chapter 1682. Luli stopped when he got out of the tribulation of mind and entered the tribulation of lightning. The tribulation of lightning could enhance his body. His 720 acupoints had not absorbed enough energy of thunderbolts, let alone saturated them. Many acupoints had only absorbed a small amount of energy of thunderbolt. He felt his acupoints would not be saturated even if he stayed here for hundreds or thousands of years. Therefore, Luli was hesitating. Should he stay here for a while to absorb enough energy of thunderbolts to further enhance his body? If his body was so strong that not even the 10-winged demon could hurt him, then he could defeat all the demons by himself. Even if he could not kill the 10-winged demon, he could kill the other demons easily. However, he had no idea how much time had passed. He had no idea what was going on in the divinity. If the divinity was on the brink of destruction, He would regret it for the rest of his life. Never mind. I will stay in the tribulation of lightning for 3 days. After that, I will return to the divinity. Luli made up his mind. He even let Little White out. He sped up and dashed into the tribulation of lightning. The thunderbolts around him were affected. He was so fast. He did not know exactly how fast he was, but he was sure that he was much faster than the average supreme warriors in the divinity. His strong body enabled him to move faster. Squeak, squeak, Little White was still sleeping. But the thunderbolts would not hurt Little White. Instead, they were nourishing Little White. Luli rushed on, looking at Little White lovingly. Once again, he had many questions in his mind. What kind of beast was Little White? Little White could enter the tribulation of mind and soul without inflicting any harm to it. Little White was intelligent and had the same soul as humans. The only thing missing was that it could not speak. Theoretically speaking, given Little White's abilities, it should have transformed a long time ago. However, it had not done so. Usually, there would be a limit to the improvement of abilities of beasts and wild beasts. However, Little White seemed to be able to improve endlessly. It could easily survive the lightning tribulation and enter the heart and soul tribulation. Not even the most powerful masters of monsters in the divinity dared to enter the tribulation of heaven, let alone the average ones. Little White had too many strange things. Luli had a feeling that Little White was hiding a huge secret, but he could not understand it yet. Little White probably didn't know either. Everything would have to wait until Little White transformed. Along the way, Luli was trying to stabilize his realm and figure out the situation of the heaven tribulation. This heavenly tribulation could be said to be a narrow escape from death. Not to mention the first 2 stages of danger. If not for Little White, he would have died without a doubt in the last stage. Therefore, it was still too risky for him this time. However, he also had a great opportunity. He just so happened to meet Whitey in the lightning tribulation. His luck was really good. Did someone deliberately arrange this? An idea came to Luli's mind. Had someone predicted that he was going to go through the heavenly tribulation? Someone had predicted that he wouldn't be able to pass the heavenly tribulation, so they deliberately brought Little White here? That's not right either. Luli shook his head. Little White had been in the Thunderbolts for several years. That person couldn't have started planning years earlier. If that was the case, it would be too terrifying. Luli dared not to stay any longer after 3 days in the Thunder Tribulation. He didn't dare to leave Little White here either. If Little White woke up and couldn't see him, it would run away. Luli flew down quickly and dashed into the wind and fire tribulation. His physical body was so strong that the wind and fire tribulation couldn't hurt him at all. In a few moments, he had made it out. I am back! Looking at the blurry land down below, Luli once again felt he had gone to the gates of hell and then returned to the human world. He really wanted to roar a few times to vent his inner emotions. Let's go! He suppressed his emotions and dashed down. At the same time, he put on the cloaking armor and went into stealth mode. As he flew down, he spread out his psychic power. Luli noticed that many places down below were covered in dark clouds. The nearby areas must have been occupied by demons. He used psychic power to check on the Snow Moon Temple. Everyone here had left. The temple was empty and many buildings were destroyed. There are people here. Luli's eyes glowed as he flew down. In a basement of a castle, he sensed a trace of life. He sent his psychic power in directly. Whoosh! Soon, the inhibition formation in the secret room under the castle began to tremble. A man flew out, dropped to one knee and said, Lord Lu, you are finally back. Clearly, this was a scout left behind by Pan Yuqin. But Luli had to be careful. He used psychic power to check the scout's soul. Making sure that the scout was not demonized or controlled, Luli nodded and asked, What is the situation in the divinity? Not good, the scout said solemnly. The demon army is besieging the city of divinity. Most of the powerful warriors in the divinity are in the city. According to the information from the city, the situation in the city is grim. The demon energy has affected all the warriors in the city. The space in the city is sealed. We cannot teleport out. Lord Lu, if you don't think of a way, everyone in the city will die. That bad? Lu Li frowned. He took out the map and asked after some thoughts, "Where is Pan Yuqin?" "The Longevity Mountain." The scout answered, "Lady Pan and Prince of Yen are at the Longevity Mountain. They have been waiting for you to come back." Lu Li took a look at the map. The Longevity Mountain was not far away from the city of divinity. He nodded and said, "Okay, go and do what you need to do. I understand." Lu Li flew away directly. This place was not far away from the city of divinity. He would be fast if he kept flying. This place had fallen. He could not use the teleportation formation in the spacetime office even if he wanted to. If he continued to fly through the void, it would only take him 2 to 3 days. With the current strength of his soul, he could fly through the void for several months without feeling mentally exhausted. Buzzing, inside the Longevity Mountain, a jade talisman in Pan Yuqin's hand suddenly cracked. Pan Yuqin, who was cultivating, opened her eyes all of a sudden. Her eyes were filled with terror. On the other side, Prince of Yan's eyes glowed coldly as well. He looked at Pan Yuqin's hand. They stared at the broken jade talisman in Pan Yuqin's hand. When they saw that it was not Lu Li's jade talisman of life, they sat up straight. Their eyes glowed. In an instant they were in high spirit. Pan Yuqin picked up the broken jade talisman in her hand and looked at it carefully. Then, she looked at Ling Qinyan. The two of them smiled. Both of them were extremely beautiful, especially Ling Qinyan. She belonged to the category of peerless beauty. Their smiles were like the blossoming of peonies. The entire room was lit up. Chapter 1683. The situation in the City of Divinity was serious. All the soldiers in the city were dead. Not a single one was left. It wasn't that there was another camp howl, but that the soldiers were killing each other. These soldiers were all killed under Zhuaqilu's orders. Because the soldiers' souls were too weak, they were almost demonized. If they were not killed, they would become demonic slaves and the city would be in chaos. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers, most of them from the craftsman's sect, but Luo Guan could only watch them die. Luo Guan had been regretting all this time. She was too confident in the defense of the city of divinity. It was her wrong decision that killed so many people. Most of the powerful warriors in the divinity might have died in the city of divinity. Many powerful warriors of the divinity in the city died as well. They were all killed by the supreme warriors of the divinity during the turmoil. So far, at least 2,000 people had died. Over 100 supreme warriors of the divinity had died, including 4 supreme warriors of the divinity. These 4 supremes from the god world had killed each other, and just the day before yesterday, 2 of the supremes from the god world had started fighting without any warning, which then caused the other 2 supremes from the god world to join in the battle. Zhuaqilu, Luo Guan, and the others wanted to suppress them, but it was too late. The supreme warriors of the divinity were very powerful. They might not be able to suppress them. In the end, the 4 supreme warriors of the divinity were all dead, which made the warriors in the city feel even more hopeless. As the warriors died one after another, people seemed to see their future in a trance. Everyone's heart was particularly depressed and heavy. In addition, the demonic aura permeating the city was affecting people's state of mind. People became more and more negative and pessimistic. Many people even had the urge to commit suicide many times. Where is Lu Li? Didn't they say that Lu Li was planning something big? Almost everyone in the city is dead. Where is Lu Li? An enraged roar suddenly rang out from within the city. It felt like they had been deceived, and the roar was filled with grief and indignation, as well as endless grievance and sorrow. Everyone was silent. Everyone had guessed that this was a lie. Luli was not planning anything big Luli was already dead. Where is Luli? In the backyard of Divine Artisan City, Luo Huang muttered in a daze. Her soul was not too weak, but she was only a woman and very young. Her heart was not that strong. Therefore, he couldn't help but let his imagination run wild, and it was easy for him to be pessimistic. Her eyes were devoid of spirit, and she no longer had that mischievous and spirited temperament of the past. She stared blankly at the sky, waiting for a peerless hero to break through the black fog in the sky and rescue them from this city of death. Sigh, Luo Guan glanced at Luo Huang and her lips turned bitter. She had survived the heavenly tribulation and experienced many things, so her mentality had long become as stable as a rock. However, under these circumstances, she inevitably felt a little lost. As time ticked by, the demons outside were still attacking. However, their numbers had decreased significantly. He just kept a portion of the demons attacking to put pressure on the martial artists in the city. It was very difficult to break through the Divine Artisan City from the outside. 3 10-winged demons might not be able to break through, but they would probably be able to break through from the inside very soon. Time continued to pass. These 2 days, due to the suppression of Zhuoqiulu and the others, and the death of the 4 Divine World Supremes, everyone had calmed down and could barely suppress the situation. However, after 3 days, the city was in an uproar again. A Divine World Supermighty in the city had actually raped a female Divine World Mighty martial artist. That female Divine World Mighty martial artist screamed for help, which attracted a few Divine World Mighty martial artists nearby. However, not only did they not save her, but they also joined the battle and captured 3 female martial artists nearby. Bastard! After Luo Guan saw this scene, her killing intent soared into the sky. She brought the awakened Luo Huang and flew up. A saint-grade weapon appeared in her hand and she was about to kill. Sect Mistress, you can't. Zhuoqiulu flew up and stopped Luo Guan. He cupped his hands and smiled bitterly. They are all too depressed. Let them vent a little. 3 of those Divine World Mighty martial artists were from the space-time manor. Naturally, Zhuoqiulu had to protect them. Luo Guan flew into a rage and shouted, I am also very depressed. I can use these people's heads to vent. Zhuoqiulu Manor Lord, are you going to let me pass? If you don't, I'm going to make a move. Make a move? Zhuoqiulu said nothing. A Divine World Supreme from the space-time manor flew up and said coldly, Sect Mistress Luo, are you going to make a move against our master? If it wasn't for your stupid decision, so many of us would be trapped here. You want to make a move? Bring it on. Swish, 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 countless powerful martial artists flew up and began to take sides. The craftsman's sect stood on one side and the space-time manor stood on the other. The Hall of Life and Death and the Divine Mystery Pavilion stood on the other side. They were clearly losing their minds. A great battle was about to break out. Kill, kill. Once I die, all will be solved. You don't have to suffer so much. Luo Huang closed his eyes in pain. Instead of being tortured like this, he would rather die. Since he was going to die sooner or later, he might as well finish this quickly. Dying in the hands of humans was better than dying in the hands of demons. Take down Luo Guan and press the craftsman's sect mistress under your body. It must feel good. A wretched-looking old man from the space-time manor shouted coldly. Many martial artists' eyes lit up. Although Luo Guan was not young anymore, he did not look old at all. He was elegant and graceful. If he could press the craftsman's sect mistress under his body, it would feel good. Do it. Kill all the bastards from the space-time manor. Luo Guan could not hold it in anymore. He gave the order furiously. All the martial artists from the craftsman's sect immediately flew up like mad dragons. On the other side, the martial artists from the space-time manor also moved. People from both sides flew over and started to fight. Sai, the new hall master of the Hall of Life and Death and the new pavilion lord of the Divine Mystery Pavilion, did not stop them. If they did, all the martial artists on their side would join in the fight. After this battle, there might not be a single person left alive in the city. Heavens, do you really want the human race of the divine world to perish? The pavilion lord of the Divine Mystery Pavilion sighed slightly. He looked up into the sky and narrowed his eyes in pain. A mocking smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The demons outside were probably laughing secretly, right? Watching the human race martial artists killing each other inside was a good show to watch. Swished, at that moment, a ray of dazzling light suddenly appeared in the sky. The sky was originally covered by the aura of the demons. It was pitch black. That was why this ray of light was especially blinding. That ray of light turned twice in midair. All the demons that were touched by this ray of light were cut into halves. This ray of light finally landed on the shield of the craftsman's city. However, because so many demons were killed along the way, there was not much energy left. The shield of the craftsman's city was very strong. This attack did not cause any ripples on the shield. However, it was like a bolt from the blue. Everyone's heart trembled. Slash of Ghost King. In the entire divine world, only the Slash of Ghost King could have such a strange attack. However, only one person could use the Slash of Ghost King. Lu Li had finally appeared. It was like a person who had slept in the darkness for a long time finally saw a ray of light in the east. Everyone's eyes lit up. Everyone who was fighting stopped and stared at the light in a daze. He is finally back. He is finally here to save us. Woo woo. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.